home of the Philadelphia Eagles.
They've got him. It's a sack.
Sixers.
Oh, baby.
And Flyers.
He scored!
97.3 ESPN. WENJ. WENJ HD. Millville, Atlantic City. A Town Square media station serving all of South Jersey.
Yes, Josh Hennig back here in the 97.3 ESPN Ocean Casino Resort Studios. Phillies sweep the Marlins. How about them apples? Back to back sweeps by the Philadelphia Phillies. Plus, Eagles joint practice day 2 apparently was Fight Club day. All that more still to come. We'll get to it all. You and me, 2 to 6 p.m. Hanging out with you, Josh Hennig, filling for Mike Gill on 97.3 ESPN. Coming up on the show, so many of you have been texting, calling, inquiring about how is Mike Gill's team doing? Well, I grabbed the phone. I told Mike Gill, Mike, if I got one more person ask me how you're doing, I can't keep answering these people individually. Why don't you just come on the show? Well, conveniently, Mike's team is a day off today. They are back in action tomorrow. So Mike will give us a full breakdown of how the A-Shore team is doing and also his thoughts on the week for the Phillies and the Eagles coming up at 3:30. You will hear from Mike Gill here on the Sports Bash. Josh Hennig filling in on 97.3 ESPN. Mike McGarry is in today at 2:30 to get his thoughts on the Phillies after sweeping back-to-back series, the Twins and the Marlins. Adam Caplan for the third straight day will join us live from Foxborough for Football at 4 after day 2 of joint practices. Phillies Fastball at 5 p.m. with Oscar Budejen. And we got another day of Knicks Nuggets coming up at 4:30. And on top of all of that, Jason Kelsey was a guest on Nick Foles' podcast. So I sat down and grabbed some audio for you guys that we can go through today. So I've had a busy day, but I'm here to give you 4 hours. You guys can join the conversation on the Whitehorse RV text board, as always, at 609-403-0973. The Whitehorse RV text board with locations in Williamstown and Galloway. Your RV adventure starts here at Whitehorse RV, 609-403-0973. That's the text board. We're also streaming live on YouTube and X at 973 ESPN. We're going to start with the Phillies before we get to the Eagles stuff because I got a lot of thoughts on both. Last night was frankly a great night of Phillies baseball. And I think the biggest takeaway last night isn't that the Phillies didn't score 5 or more runs again. It's the fact that welcome back Aaron Nola. You know, when Aaron Nola signed that disgusting contract a couple years ago, a lot of people were wondering, what are the Phillies doing? A lot of people were wondering, can you really give a guy that big of a contract as he gets older? You're talking about a ball player who is now 33 years old. So he's not old in terms of he can't pitch anymore. But you always wondered, when was the drop-off going to come? Then you had the injuries that just got worse and worse and more complicated last year. And you were hoping it was just a 1-year drop-off for Nola. And frankly, he actually started the year fine. His first few starts, he was okay. He wasn't bad. But then the bottom dropped out at the end of April. And he had that stretch of games where it was up, down, up, down. The Nola roller coaster was basically infused with NOS, right? That ride was just so erratic. It was just painful. But since July 1st, Aaron Nola has finally gotten back on track. He has now, since July 1st, 8 of his last 9 starts, he has allowed 3 runs or fewer. He has given you at least 5 innings in every single one of those games. And even more importantly, in those 9 starts, 6 of those 9, he has given you 6 or more strikeouts, which means he is averaging at minimum a strikeout per inning. And to me, this is essential for the Philadelphia Phillies because, one, the Phillies right now are in a war to get that final wild card spot. This is not going to be an easy state of affairs. And they need every one of these Aaron Nola starts. Now, it's not Nola's fault that the team went winless when he started, when he was only allowing 2 or 3 runs a game. The Phillies should be able to score 4 or 5 runs a game with this amount of money invested in them. But the key for them is if Aaron Nola can keep giving you these kind of starts, if he can keep giving you 5, 6 innings of quality baseball, you are going to have a much higher chance of making the postseason. And then when you get to the postseason, you're going to be a little less stressed if you need to call on Aaron Nola in a postseason game. Because Aaron Nola is showing you that he can still be what you paid him to be all that money a couple years ago, which is a guy that's going to eat up innings and he's going to average a strikeout per inning. And as I said, that is the essential part of it because Aaron Nola is not a pitcher who's going to blow you away. This is not a pitcher who is going to throw gas past you. He has to work the edges. He's got to be like a Greg Maddux to an extent. He has to be a guy who's going to work his pitches up and down the zone, in and out. Keep changing levels on the hitter. Keep changing speeds to keep them off balance. And when Aaron Nola is averaging at least 1 strikeout per inning, that means that Aaron Nola is now forcing the other team to think twice when they go up to bat. See, in the games that Aaron Nola struggles the most, you see 2 issues pop up immediately. The first issue when he struggles is he's not getting strikeouts. He's not getting swing and miss. And when he's not getting swing and miss, teams are able to sit back and tee off on him. They're able to see the ball coming and they're able to launch. That's why he gives up home runs at times, because Nola becomes predictable. The other issue with Aaron Nola is when he struggles, he doesn't have command. He's not making the hitters second guess the pitch that's coming at them. Instead, those hitters are able to relax and treat it like batting practice. But thanks to Aaron Nola finding his way, in the last 9 starts, he doesn't just have a 3.63 ERA. But we're talking about a pitcher. I said it before and I'll say it again. The strikeouts are key. 59 strikeouts in 52 innings pitched. Now, as I mentioned, he had that rocky run of games from the end of April to the end of June. In those games, he had 63 strikeouts in 62 and a third innings. That's barely a strikeout per inning. And if you narrow the scope even more than that, just in the month of June, he only had 31 strikeouts in 28 innings. Aaron Nola's got to make that strikeout number big, because that's when he's getting the swing and the miss. That's when he has the hitters off kilter. And a good Aaron Nola is going to make this team deeper and more dangerous. Now, when you go down the stretch of the season and you look ahead, right? When you look ahead to the Phillies games and you see the pitching matchups, you're not looking at Aaron Nola as a potential loss anymore. You're looking at Aaron Nola as a potential win. So now, when you see that Aaron Nola is scheduled for an upcoming game against Seattle on the 25th and against Arizona on August 31st, you're not sitting there saying, oh man, Nola, he's a lost cause. No, you're going into it saying we have a chance to win the game because Nola is going to give me 6 innings and only allow 2 or 3 runs, which means my offense can do their job. Like you saw last night. Was it a great night offensively for the Phillies? Not necessarily. But when you get Luis Arias going 2 for 4 with a home run, when you get Trey Turner going 2 for 4 with an RBI, when you have Brandon Marsh going 2 for 4 and getting on base consistently, it puts less stress on the rest of the lineup. And how about Garrett Stubbs last night? He got 2 hits last night. Good for Stubby, man. That guy was a contributor. That was a good move by the Phillies last night. And you could argue there were 2 moments in the game that were absolutely massive. One was Garrett Stubbs basically running out what could have been an out at first base and getting on. That was a massive, massive moment in the game. That was kind of like the moment where you thought, whoa, we actually might win this game. It was a massive moment for the team, that specific play I would look at. And the other play was the Brandon Marsh catch along the left field line, which could have been a foul ball, but bringing it back in play, that could have just been a foul ball. But no, Brandon Marsh went and got that ball. And you saw the relief on Boland's face when that out happened. He was like, wow, that guy saved my tail. And I think that those are 2 of the moments last night. And there are a couple others as well that you can go with. But those were 2 of the moments where you were like, hey, man, those plays don't happen. Who knows how differently this game plays out? And I think those combined with Aaron Nola's outing was the perfect high for the Phillies to go into a day off today and let them recalibrate and get ready. Because you just swept the Twins, you just swept the Marlins. You're on a 6-game winning streak. You've won 6 of your last 10 games. Sorry, 6 of your last 8 games and 8 of your last 10 games is that the actual number I'm looking for. Now the Cardinals come to your house. The Cardinals roughed you up in St. Louis. Now you could bury them getting 2 out of 3 this weekend to go into a West Coast road trip with some games in hand in the wild card. Nola stabilizing the rotation. The Phillies offense giving you some production. It's a great time for the Phillies. And now, I said before, Josh Hennig filling in for Mike Gill on the Sports Bash on 97.3 ESPN. Can the Phillies stay contenders heading into September when football comes around and it's going to be almost 24/7 football conversation? Phillies are making a case. Don't change that channel to watch Maction on a Tuesday or a Wednesday night. Don't fire up Amazon Prime on a Thursday night. Make sure that your devices are powered up so when you go see a high school football game in South Jersey on Friday, that you're watching the Phils. And you're going to need a split screen on Saturdays when college football is on. And as soon as that Eagles game is done, you got to go and look at what happened with the Phillies today. The Phillies are going to force you to pay attention now if they keep playing the way they are. And they can nail down the wild card positioning ahead of a tough stretch of games this weekend against the Cardinals. The White Horse RV text board is open at 609-403-0973. We're also streaming live on YouTube and X at 973 ESPN. Nick, I see your comments. We'll get to you in just a bit, as well as other texts. But I want to hit on the Eagles as well here. Apparently today was fight night, or fight day, I should say, at joint practices. And even Jordan Mailata admitted that them getting into scuffles today derailed the offense at times at joint practices. A lot of the Eagles players after the practice said it was a good 2 days of joint practices, but today could have been better if they would have been a little more focused and less getting out of their element, getting in some of those scuffles. And I think it's very telling of the players to admit that today, because it kind of goes to show you where the players' mindset is. In the players' minds, they realize that they have to cross all the T's and dot all the I's if they are going to have any hope of a deep, I don't want to say a deep dive into the playbook, but a better handle of the playbook, okay? And I think that is where it is. That is where this is very, very questionable. It's very, very questionable of, will they be 100% ready? That is what the biggest takeaway from the 2 days of joint practice. And we'll dive deeper into it with Adam Caplan coming up at 4 o'clock. But the players seem to know what they need to improve on now and what they got to fix and what they have done well, what they haven't done well. And the players being self-aware of that, I think, is the huge, biggest takeaway of all. Because Sal Palantonio made a comment this morning on Sportsman, heard 6 a.m. at 10 a.m. Eastern on 97.3 ESPN. He was telling Evan Cohen that one of the biggest lessons he learned early on as an NFL reporter, he learned from Dick Vermeil. And Dick Vermeil said that training camp and preseason is about observation. It is not about a declaration. And you heard Sal Pal on this yesterday. He was saying, look, Sal Pal was very clear yesterday when he joined us yesterday on 97.3 ESPN. When he called in from Foxborough, he says, I'm not making declarations about the offense because there's a lot that we don't know. But the questions that we have are observations. So we're not saying the Eagles offense is going to be good or bad, but between Sal Palantonio yesterday and the players yesterday and today speaking to the media, and I'll play some of that audio a little bit later, as well as all the observations from different reporters, have kind of brought all in. There's a lot of potential for the Eagles offense. But now they got about roughly 2 weeks to zero in, clean it up, and set the groundwork for the season. Because if you are if you're an Eagles fan, no matter what your opinion is of the head coach, of the quarterback, of any of that stuff, if you are a real Eagles fan, the last 2 days might have been the best thing that happened to this team, which is face some adversity. Better to face the adversity and work through the problems now than think everything is just perfectly fine and everything is cruising, and then you get to that stretch of games I pointed out yesterday, and then you start hitting the wall. Listen, the first 2 weeks, they should win those games. But week 3 through week 7 is where it gets dicey. At the Bears, home against the Rams, in London against the Jags, then the Panthers and the Cowboys. You need to make sure that you work out all of the issues now, so when you launch into that run of games, you are fully streamlined offensively. As promised, I'll get to you guys messages a little bit later in the show. Jeff from Ocean City on the Whitehorse RV text board at 609-403-0973. I see also Nick on the YouTube and X stream at 973 ESPN. Josh Hennig hanging out with you on 973 ESPN. Don't forget, if you're looking for a place to settle in to watch the Eagles preseason or regular season games, or check out a Phillies game this weekend, go check out Yuri's Waterfront Restaurant in the Boathouse at the foot of the Wildwood Bridge. Listen, right off of exit 4 on Garden State Parkway, you head right down Wildwood Boulevard. You enter Wildwood. Right there on the right-hand side, that's where Yuri's Waterfront Restaurant and the Boathouse Restaurant is in Wildwood. The seafood is extraordinary. The value is tremendous. And, of course, you can't beat the sunsets. They're on the house. Yuri's Waterfront Restaurant has the sliders bar and the back deck bar, so you can watch all the Phillies and Eagles action while enjoying some of the best seafood you will find in all of South Jersey. That's Yuri's Waterfront Restaurant and the Boathouse in Wildwood. We'll get Mike McGarry's perspective on the Phillies sweeping back-to-back series, the Twins and the Marlins. What does Mike McGarry think of the Phillies heading into the weekend? We'll get his perspective coming in next. Josh Hennig, Philly for Mike Gill, here on the Sports Bash on 97.3 ESPN.
You're listening to the Sports Bash with Mike Gill.
And if you're not down with that, we got 2 words for you.
On 97.3 ESPN and the 97.3 ESPN free mobile app.
When adventure is calling, turn to the experts at Whitehorse RV Center. For over 50 years, families and adventurers have trusted Whitehorse RV to find industry-top brands and the floor plans that fit every lifestyle. From travel trailers with bunk beds and outside kitchens to motorhomes and destination trailers. Whether you're hitting the open road or planning a local campground getaway, it's about experience, selection, and people who care. See why generations have answered the call with Whitehorse RV Center, because your RV adventure starts here.
With Kohl's Back to School sale, kids get styles that say, I'm so back. And you get savings that say, I'm so good at this. Save up to 40% on school essentials. Plus, shop in-store this weekend for your chance to get up to $100 instant Kohl's Cash. Back to school confidence runs in the family. Select styles. Some exclusions apply. Coupons and Kohl's Cash do not apply to Sephora at Kohl's. Offers end August 23rd. See store or Kohl's.com for details.
Hey, Mom, now that I have an after-school job, I think I want to buy a drum kit.
Okay, Rockstar. Let's look at your account.
When kids start making money, Chase has easy-to-use tools and expert bankers to help them learn how to manage it.
And next month, I'll buy the bass drum and the cymbals. Oh, and maybe some noise-canceling headphones for you.
Aw, you've thought of everything.
Help kids save, budget, and build financial independence, all with Chase. That's good for kids and good for parents. Visit your local Chase branch and get started.
Account subject to approval. JP Morgan Chase Bank, N.A. member FDIC.
Did you know that driving under the influence of marijuana is illegal? Driving high will get you a DUI. And if you're wondering if law enforcement can tell you're driving high, well, everyone else can. Friends?
I can tell you drove high.
Parents?
I can tell when you drive high.
Relatives?
I can tell. You drove here high, didn't you?
So what makes you think law enforcement can't?
I can tell.
If you feel different, you drive different. Drive high, get a DUI. Paid for by NHTSA.
If Twisted Tea Hard Iced Tea was your best friend, it would be the kind of friend that starts an impromptu dance party in the supermarket aisle that turns into an all-day pool party rager at your place, and you don't even own a pool. Twisted Tea Hard Iced Tea turns any day into a legendary adventure. It's smooth and refreshing real iced tea with just the right kick of alcohol. Twisted Tea Hard Iced Tea. Keep it twisted.
Twisted Tea Brewing Company, Cincinnati, Ohio. Please drink responsibly.
Get your game on at the Fanatic Sportsbook in the gallery at Ocean Casino Resort. Go to Ocean Casino Resort. Go for the win. For more information, visit theoceanac.com.
School is back in session at Matt Blatt Kia. 26 Kia Sportage, $139 per month. 26 Kia Telluride, $259 per month. Need extra credit? If you bring home at least $450 per week, we want to get you approved today.
Matt Blatt Kia, 6211 Black Horse Pike, Egg Harbor Township, at mattblattkia.com.
It's got to be a Matt Blatt Kia.
24-month leases, $59.99 to sign. Call 888-506-4132 for details. Offers don't combine. Expires month end.
$2:30 on the Sports Bash. Josh Hennig, affiliate for Mike Gill on 973 ESPN FM, 973 ESPN mobile app powered by First Bank of Sea Isle. We are streaming live as always on YouTube and X at 973 ESPN. Phillies back-to-back sweeps. What does it all mean? Is it time to get excited they've won either the last 10? They're getting hot at the right time, or they're getting hot too early. We'll dig into all right now. Mike McGarry for the Press of Atlantic City is back, pressofac.com, and he joins us. as the Phillies have a day off today to kind of get ready for an important weekend with the St. Louis Cardinals. Mike, welcome back in. How you doing today?
Doing well, Josh. How are you?
I'm doing well, and I've got a note from you. You know, the Phillies sit here. They got 2 back-to-back sweep wins. They won 8 of the last 10. Are they finding their way back to winning, or is this just a short-term run of success?
You know, I don't think they're going to win 8 of their next 10 games, or they're going to sweep consecutive series, but I think what you're seeing are some positive signs and some worrisome signs also, but they're a team that needs to win some games. They're not guaranteed of anything right now, so they've kind of climbed themselves back into the fringes of the division race and solidified the wild card spot a little bit. So, yeah, I mean, this is what good baseball teams do. They go on hot streaks, and the Phillies are on one right now.
I think one of the biggest takeaways from this run, Mike, is the return of Aaron Nola, shall we call it. He has finally looked like the pitcher who deserves to get paid that big contract a couple of years ago. He's going out there. He's giving you quality outings. He's not allowing a ton of runs. In his last 9 outings, he has 8 of them. 8 of the 9, he's only allowed 3 or fewer runs. So I feel like this is a huge positive for the Phillies to lengthen that rotation. Is Aaron Nola giving you quality outings every 5 days?
Yeah, I would agree that it's great to see Aaron Nola come around. I mean, he's arguably going to end his career, and his career still has a long way to go. I mean, he's going to end his career at least one of the top 10 pitchers in Phillies history, maybe even top 5 in Phillies history as far as starting pitches go. So it's good to see him get on a little streak of positivity here. But at the same time, one of the things that concerns me is, you know, Zach Wheeler has not exactly looked like Zach Wheeler's last 4 starts. And Christopher Sanchez has not looked like the Christopher Sanchez we saw early in the season. Now, maybe that is to be expected. Nobody expects Christopher Sanchez to go out and throw 50 straight scoreless innings again like he did early in the season. But those 2 guys at the top have not been as good as they were early in the season. So it seems with the Phillies, like, you know, one thing goes well and something else seems to drop at the same time.
For you, when you just mentioned about Wheeler and Sanchez, do you think that it's just fatigue, dog days of summer, or are you concerned there might be a larger issue with those 2 guys?
I think it's fatigue. I mean, with Wheeler, I think you're a little bit more concerned considering health-wise what he's been through. It's just about a year around this time that he was diagnosed with the blood clot last year. And then, of course, in September, he undergoes that surgery and, you know, misses the first 5 or 6 starts of this season. So I think with Wheeler, you know, maybe a little bit concerned. But with Sanchez, I think it's kind of, you know, he threw a lot of innings early in the year. I don't think it was the Phillies' fault. It was just that he was so effective. He was literally not giving up any runs. There was no reason to take him out of the game. So I think he's a little fatigued. I think if the Phillies were in a better situation or a more secure situation, playoff-wise, I could actually see a scenario where they let Sanchez or Wheeler kind of skip a start or 2 to kind of re-energize themselves for October, but they're not in a position where they can do that so far, where they are playoff-wise. So those guys are going to have to keep their foot on the gas pedal to the end of the season. Yeah, I would be concerned about Wheeler and a little less concerned, but a little tick up of concern about Sanchez.
Mike, you mentioned about, you know, the rotation. I know Mattingly was asked yesterday about the idea of a potential 6-man rotation. What is 6-man rotation you think benefit those guys? Because I know in the past Wheeler has been very, very vocal about his dislike of not being on regular rest.
Yeah, Wheeler is a guy who traditionally has liked to go every 5th day, right? And there is a way with you get a lot of days off in September where you can probably, gerrymander the the rotation where you keep Wheeler on a fifth day and give everybody else an extra day of rest. But Josh, they're not in a position to do that. They can't throw. They can't have a start where Alan Rangel goes out there, or maybe Nestor Cortez, who they signed yesterday, goes out there. They're not in a position to give away games at this point. They're still, again, on the fringes of the Braves, where they 5 back in the loss column, where they got a 2-game lead on the Padres, maybe 3 games on the Diamondbacks. They're not. Nothing is assured of this point, so they are strictly pedal to the metal, as Don Mattingly says. They have to have a win every day mentality. This is not last year where they were well on their way to winning a division. They're not like the Dodgers, Brewers, or teams that are assured of a playoff spot right now that can kind of rest guys and get them ready for October. The Phillies have to get to October first, and that means using their best guys as much as they can down the stretch here.
Mike McGarry from the Press of Atlantic City joining us, PressOfAC.com, for all of his coverage, talking about the Phillies heading into the weekend. Day off today for the Phils, so no Phillies lineups, no matchups today, but they'll be back in action tomorrow. Mike, you just mentioned about the Nestor Cortez edition. We had this conversation yesterday. I feel like, what is up with the Phillies and constantly going to the discount rack at Marshalls? Like, I feel like, last year was Walker Buehler. This year is Nestor Cortez. A couple of years ago, I remember them trading for Michael Lorenzen. Like, what is it with this team and constantly mid-late season being like, hey, that guy has little to no value, but maybe he could do something. We'll go grab that guy.
Yeah, I think with Cortez, it's literally like buying a scratch-off lottery ticket, right? And you're hoping it pays off. They're going to send him down to Single A. Who knows how many starts he'll get down there, at least a couple. And then, if one of the 5 pitchers that they have right now gets hurt, or maybe they view Cortez as an upgrade over Alan Rangel, that's where they would fit in there. But I think it just speaks to the lack of depth in the rotation, that if one of the 5 guys goes down between now and the end of the season, they don't have a number 6 guy to put in there. So I think they're looking to protect themselves on that front. And also, as we just said, they can't afford to, again, give away starts or give away games down the stretch by not putting a quality starting pitcher on the mound because of where they stand in the playoff race. Josh, I actually kind of agree with the philosophy a little bit. It frustrates me that they're doing it in September, although Cortez has been hurt all season and is just got hurt last year and is only now at the point where he is recovering enough and healthy enough to pitch. I would actually like to see them go out in spring training and get 2 or 3 of these guys and bring them into camp, and then see if 1 or 2 of them, see if you can strike gold sort of, by bringing in a couple of these former big league pitchers who have had success. So that's what I think it is. I think just like with last year, and what did Walker Buehler, I believe, ended up starting a playoff game for them. They're just looking to kind of buy a lottery ticket and protect themselves against injury, and maybe it pays off and maybe it doesn't.
But Mike, that's my issue. You just brought up a great point. There's so many years where they could bring guys in spring training. They could, especially this year, a year where you had Andrew Painter in spring training. Can you imagine a scenario if they would have brought in a competent 4th or 5th starter who could have been lengthening? You could have started the year with Painter in the minor leagues. Like, I don't understand their apprehension to just be like, let's go into spring training with 2-3 veteran pitchers. If a guy does well, great. If he doesn't, no harm, no foul. I don't understand the philosophy of them just not planning for, things not going well.
Yeah, I would agree. I mean, obviously, they just didn't discover yesterday when they signed Nestor Cortez that they didn't have a lot of depth as far as starting pitching.
Exactly.
That was a question. That was a question going into the season. So I agree with you. I am a big fan of bringing in, pitchers who have had major league success before that are maybe coming off an injury, bringing in 2 or 3 of those guys and just seeing, bring them into spring training, give them a chance to pitch. and just see if they can add to the depth of your rotation, because obviously we all know, look at every team in baseball, it takes more than 5 pitches to sort of study. And what do you have? You have about 34, 35 games left in the season right now. So that's about 6-7 starts remaining for these starters. And they, they don't have a lot of depth. If one of those guys was to go down and get injured, they'd really be caught. So I think that's what they're trying to do with Nestor Cortez. Just bring him in, see if it works. You have a guy who's had some success with the Yankees, had some success in some big spots with the Yankees. So again, to me, it's like you're walking into the Wawa, you're buying the lottery ticket, you scratch it off, and you hope you hit big money. If not, it's kind of no harm, no foul.
And I think that's why, to me, one of the biggest moments of the game last night, Mike, was when Brandon Marsh went and got that foul ball and got that out in left field. That could have just been a regular foul ball, whatever, but him going to get that out, I think you saw the camera pan over to Jonathan Bolin. For those of us who are watching at home, it looked like Bolin had a bit of a moment where he realized, okay, I got this. I can finish this inning, because they desperately need him to be a dude down the stretch, because listen, with Caleb Killian, who knows, whenever he's coming back, they need every guy in that bullpen to start adding up to more wins, because you can't get the ball to Duran if the bullpen is going to be shaky.
Yeah, I mean, that's the big question with the bullpen right now, is the bridge to Duran. And that's one of the things that kind of worries you when you see Sanchez not going as deep into games as he did early in the season, and Wheeler not going as deep into games as you did early in the season. And Nola is really a 5-6 inning pitcher. And in a playoff scenario, Nola and Painter might be a one-time through the rotation scenario. So they do not, in my mind at least, have that dependable lights-out 8th inning guy. Think back to 2008. It was Ryan Matson in the 8th. It was Brad Lidge in the 9th. And from about August 1st on, of course, Lidge was perfect all season long, but Matson was spectacular from August 1st on. And it was like if the Phillies had a lead after 6 innings in 2008, they won the game. I don't think you can say the same about this bullpen, because I don't have faith in those 8th inning guys, in Jonathan Bolin, Orion Kirkland, Brooks Rowley. Can they do it? We'll see. But yeah, that's the big issue, and that's why the starting pitching is a concern, because previously, when Sanchez was going deep in the games, or Wheeler was going deep in the games, you say, okay, Sanchez for 7 or 8 innings, or 7 1/3, 7 2/3, then I need a guy to get in and out, and then I can go to Duran. Now you're looking at guys that are going to have to cover, maybe part of the 6th, maybe this and the 7th and 8th innings. That might be asking a lot from this bullpen. So I don't want to come on here and be a naysayer or something, because the team is playing well. They're fun to watch. They're hitting the baseball. The lineup has come alive. I don't think, however, that this winning streak has erased the sort of underlying concerns that come up when you think about how this team can succeed in October.
Mike, you mentioned about the offense, so I want to hit on before I let you go. Bryce Harper extended his on-base streak to 23 games. And, Mike, I did a little research. That streak dates back to that Marlins series when he told the media after the game, we need help. And I find it interesting, Mike, that as soon as Bryce Harper says we need help, you know what he did? He started doing his job to kind of say, hey, I'm doing my job. I'm getting on base. I'm on my bat's trying to do something for you. It's time for everybody else to step up, and we're seeing this month, Alec Boehm is having a really good month of August. Bryson Stott is hitting on fire since the All-Star break return. It seems like the offense built around Harper and Luis Arias in the middle of it is kind of starting to find its way here.
Yeah, I mean, again, you talk about the old quote-unquote back of the baseball card thing, and I think Bryson Stott and Alec Boehm, as well as JT Realmuto to a degree, are on pushes to get to the back of their baseball card right now. And yeah, Harper has been much more patient at the plate, and when Harper is going well, he's not chasing pitches outside the zone. He's swinging at strikes. He's laying off balls. He's willing to take his walks and stuff like that. and that is what he's doing now. And the biggest thing about that is Harper is getting on base, but the guys behind him are producing. Arias had the home run last night, even though he had that streak where I think he was 0 for 16, 0 for 17. He's been pretty good since the Phillies picked him up. Stott has been very good. Bohm has been very good. JT Realmuto has been good. I think Justin Crawford is a guy who is showing over the second half of the season that he can be an everyday center fielder. And, is he going to hit leadoff for you one day? Maybe. Is he going to hit third, fourth, or fifth? Probably not. Is he going to hit eighth or ninth? But he's shown that he can be a capable major league player and hit in that part of the order and do some damage here. So it's not only Harper getting on base, it's the guys behind him producing, and it's kind of a chicken or an egg thing. Harper doesn't feel the pressure to try to do too much because he trusts the guys behind him, but the guys behind him have to produce for Harper to trust them. And right now you kind of got this offense playing as well as it's played all season long, and maybe as well as it's played in quite some time. I think maybe you got to go back to that 2024 season, that April, May, and June of 2024, when the offense was really clicking like it has the last couple of weeks.
He's Mike McGarry, AC Press McGarry on the X platform. Of course, pressofac.com for all of your coverage. And of course, Mike will be back with us tomorrow to preview the Phillies weekend here on the Sports Bash on 97.3 ESPN. Mike, appreciate you jumping on today. We'll talk to you tomorrow.
All right, Josh, we'll see you down the road. Thanks a lot.
Josh Hennig filling in for Mike Gill here on the Sports Bash, 97.3 ESPN FM, the 97.3 ESPN mobile app powered by First Bank of Sea Isle City. Coming up on the other side, it is our Golic Minute. What did Mike Golic have to say about Jalen Hurts earlier today? You'll hear it coming up next on the Sports Bash on 97.3 ESPN.
LeBron James plays here.
Here comes the Kings down the lane. Oh, man. LeBron James like a locomotive right down the boulevard.
97.3 ESPN. South Jersey's radio home of the Philadelphia 76ers.
Shop the Sherwin-Williams sale and get 30% off Duration, Superdeck, and Woodscapes products August 14th through the 24th. Whether you're refreshing your interior or exterior, we've got the colors to bring your vision to life. And with delivery, getting everything to your door is easier than ever. Shop online to have it delivered or visit your neighborhood Sherwin-Williams store. Retail sales only. Some exclusions apply. See store for details. Delivery available on qualifying orders.
the zone, AutoZone.
John's day is off to a slow start. So he heads to AutoZone, where he can get a battery for under $100. Lonnie, a local AutoZoner, tests his battery for free. Looks like he just needs a charge. And Lonnie does that for free too. In no time at all, John is back on the road, ready to finish the day strong. Free battery testing and charging at every store. No hassles, just help.
Get in the zone, AutoZone.
Restrictions apply.
Get your game on at the Fanatic Sportsbook in the Gallery at Ocean Casino Resort. Go to Ocean Casino Resort. Go for the win. For more information, visit theoceanac.com.
I think it's always been Jalen Hurts. Oh, by the way, he's been in 2 Super Bowls, and even in the one he lost, played better than Patrick Mahomes, was the best player on both Super Bowls. It is on him because there's questions of him throwing over the middle of the field, questions in his passing game, right? A.J. Brown is a great receiver. He's a great receiver. He needs a quarterback to throw him the ball. So I still think there's going to be more questions, fair or unfair, on Jalen Hurts.
That was Mike Gill Sr. this morning saying there's more to prove by Jalen Hurts than there is by A.J. Brown. You're going to hear a little bit later in the show. There is someone who disagrees with that. But right now, let's get to the prove it part. I think he's right to an extent. I think Golick Sr. is right in the fact that Hurts has more to prove because he just spent 4 years showing what he could do with a high-level receiver. Now what does he do without him? I know it's not an apples-to-apples comparison, but there is something interesting about it when it comes to what other quarterbacks in years past. My mind goes back to when the Chiefs lost Tyreek Hill. One of the biggest feathers in Patrick Mahomes' resume, the feather in his cap, was the idea that they could win championships and get the championship games without Tyreek Hill. You know, when Joe Montana left the 49ers and went to Kansas City and had that run, he showed you how great of a quarterback he is without needing to be in the Bill Walsh system of offense. Think of Brett Favre. Him being in Minnesota amplified the end of his career as an all-time great. Same with Peyton Manning going to the Denver Broncos. When a quarterback can show you what he can do in a different system with a different set of circumstances, it elevates their profile. Can Jalen Hurts do that? Find out what Jason Kelsey and Nick Foles think. Coming up next here on the Sports Bash on 97.3 ESPN.
The Birds are back. Catch Philadelphia Eagles preseason football as the Eagles get ready for the 2026 season. Heading to Foxborough to face the AFC champion Patriots. Saturday night game coverage starts at 6 with Merrill Reese and Mike Quick calling all the action starting at 7.
He takes his drop. He's looking. He's grabbed. They're going to sack him and throw him down at the 23-yard line. Jalen Carter.
This is South Jersey's radio home of the Philadelphia Eagles. 97.3 ESPN.
Sebastian Maniscalco, live.
Well, some people do Venmo. Maybe you went out to dinner before the show. Somebody paid, and then the rest of the group said, no, we'll Venmo you later. No, you pay me now. Right? You can leave here tonight and wrap yourself around a tree. Where does that leave me?
Live on stage at Ovation Hall and Ocean Casino Resort for 8 shows in September 2026. Get tickets now at theoceanac.com.
When adventure is calling, turn to the experts at Whitehorse RV Center. For over 50 years, families and adventurers have trusted Whitehorse RV to find industry top brands and the floor plans that fit every lifestyle. From travel trailers with bunk beds and outside kitchens to motorhomes and destination trailers. Whether you're hitting the open road or planning a local campground getaway, it's about experience, selection, and people who care. Feel like generations have answered the call with Whitehorse RV Center, because your RV adventure starts here.
Home of the Sports Bash with Mike Gill, 97.3 ESPN, WENJ, WENJ HD, Millville, Atlantic City. This is the Sports Bash with 3 ESPN and the 97.3 ESPN.
I was listening to Jason Kelsey on a podcast yesterday. Jason Kelsey's right. When you look, and it was with Nick Foles, if you look at it, there's no quarterback in Eagles history that has played bigger and bigger big games than Jalen Hurts. So I don't think there's that much pressure on Jalen Hurts. I think he's struggling right now because he doesn't have his number 1 and 2 wide receivers on the field. And there's a lot of nomenclature and verbiage in the offense that everybody's trying to learn.
South Antonio this morning on a sportsmanlike, heard 6 a.m. Eastern on 97.3 ESPN. A couple interesting things he said right there. He said, I heard Jason Kelsey on the podcast. He also said all the pressure is not on Jalen Hurts. Sounds a little different than what Mike Gill said earlier. What did Jason Kelsey and Nick Foles say on the season podcast with that audio in just a bit? The Whitehorse RV text board is open at 609-403-0973. Also, we are live on YouTube and X. Did a lot of Phillies talk in the first hour. We still have Phillies Fastball with Oscar Budejen coming up at 5 o'clock. In about 30 minutes from now, we'll hear from Mike Gill, live from Jamestown, New York. His thoughts on the Phillies and updates on his A-Shore baseball team. But right now, as promised, I want to get to this audio from Jason Kelce and Nick Foles, and you guys can react as well to it, because I think it's very interesting that we are at a point where we have people who are nitpicking training camp and preseason game action, right? And so I get it. We're trying to figure out the unknown. We're trying to decipher what we don't know. But what about what we do know? Well, we know the Eagles have been practicing all offseason with the aforementioned offense. And Jason Kelce has been at practice. He has been watching the team. And it's a very long podcast with Foles and Kelce, so there's a lot that was said. But I want to kind of go to specifically the Jalen Hurts element of it, because there were some interesting points, and it starts with Foles explaining that he doesn't think that Hurts is, and now I'm kind of framing this before we play the audio. Basically, part of the conversation was about how, some of the rankings don't have Hurts very highly. And, a couple of weeks ago, I had Mike Sando from The Athletic. He talked about the quarterback tiers, right? Hurts was at the bottom of tier 2 for him. There's a lot of NFL lists out there that have Hurts not a top 10 quarterback, right? And so part of the conversation that Foles and Kelce were having was about how Hurts is evaluated. And this is Foles saying that he thinks Hurts could be an elite quarterback, but he is also an improving quarterback at the same time.
And I can make an argument for him being elite easily. Sure. But I'm like, I also know he has a lot he wants to prove, especially, a lot of people talk about the middle of the field pass. I think he's a great deep passer, great short passer. It's that middle of the field, like when he has to go through progressions. Like I want to see him take that next step right there. Yeah. Once he conquers out going through progressions and getting that ball on like a backside dagger, like or
layering throws.
Yeah, those are, and he has that ability. Like I'm not saying he doesn't, but when he can master,
we just haven't seen a lot of it. He hasn't been asked to do a lot of it either.
And that's my thing is I'm not over here hating. I'm like I see him taking another step and becoming better.
Very interesting, because one, you heard both Kelce and him admit, hey, Hurts hasn't done a lot previously about what he's going to be asked to do this season. So it's not that he can't do it. It's that he hasn't been asked to do it. Now, the contention has always been, was he not asked to do it because the coaches didn't think he could do it? Or was he not asked to do it because that was a byproduct of the offense? Those are two very, very different things. And, we may never know the real answer to that for years to come. But I do think it's interesting that Foles says, look, I think he can be elite. But now he's being asked to do stuff he hasn't done before. Now he's got to prove that he can execute the style of offense and the style of quarterback play that does line up more with the Mahomes and the Allens and the Burrows and the Prescotts and the Herberts and the Staffords and whoever else you want to throw into that conversation of who the best quarterbacks in the league are. And Kelce, he kind of feeds into that because he talks about what he has seen at Eagles practice with this new offense, an offense that Hurts has never been asked to run before.
I too have been wondering, how is he going to translate with this progression stuff, right? Because it's just not what he's done. You see it across the league, but I've been encouraged with what I've seen at camp. I really have. I think I don't know a lot about it, but you can see when a guy goes through his fake, starts on his read, recomposes himself and hits the next one when it looks right timing wise, right? And this is something I've learned watching this offense, that there's these guys in this progression is built in to the fake where the quarterback's feet gets at the top of his drop, where he starts with one, and then it's a hitch to the second read. And all of that is orchestrated in a way that it makes sense with the footwork and the timing of the receivers downfield. And I think it's looked really good for the most part in what I've seen at practice, which has been really encouraging. I'm excited for Jalen.
I think it's very interesting how he talks about that, the footwork, right? That is something that has been highlighted by a lot of people who are watching the practices, that Hurts' footwork is improved, that he's worked a lot on his footwork. You heard Kelsey explaining that the footwork of the quarterback has to be in alignment with the receivers. Again, it's something that Hurts has never been asked to do before. From the very moment he's gotten to the NFL, Jalen Hurts has either run a stripped down version of a Doug Peterson offense. He has ran a Nick Sirianni dumpster fire, which transitioned to a Shane Steichen run first offense that helped Hurts and the Eagles get to a Super Bowl a year later. Then they ran whatever Brian Johnson was trying to run half the year, which I think was meant to be a little more pass heavy, but it didn't work out the way they wanted. Then it was the Kellen Moore offense with Saquon Barkley running for 2,000 yards. Then it was the Patullo dumpster fire. The Eagles tried to change up midseason. So nowhere in that chronology did I say that Hurts has run a timing-based West Coast offense. And even Kelsey said, it's an offense that I'm not familiar with. Now think about that. Jason Kelsey played for Andy Reid, Chip Kelly, Doug Peterson, Nick Sirianni. 4 different head coaches, 4 different philosophies, all offensive-minded coaches. And what Kelsey is saying is what the Eagles are doing now is so extremely different than what has been run in the past, to which Kelsey went on to explain that Sean Mannion is being given the opportunity to do something in Philadelphia that no other coach before him has been afforded the same opportunity, because Mannion is coming in here, not just a new offense, but with complete autonomy.
Sean is getting a fresh start. He is going to run the offense that he wants to run. With Brian Johnson, sometimes this thing ends up being an amalgamation of a lot of different people. And, it doesn't always all end up cohesive and working together. All of it's good stuff. Mm-hmm. All of it's great. But how does all of these things, I think, I'm really looking forward to see how they navigate that, how they set things up, how they all go off of one another's.
This is an amazing point that I feel like has only been brought up by real football people and never gets talked about by the hot take artists or the talking heads or the social media superstars. It's the idea that guys like Brian Johnson, guys like Kevin Patullo and others, their job was to run an offense that was not theirs. They were being asked to call plays and run offenses that were not uniquely and totally their offenses. Specifically, Brian Johnson, Kevin Patullo, and Shane Steichen were all running offenses that had a lot of input from Nick Sirianni, had a lot of input from other people who were not the play callers. And I'm not trying to I'm not trying to cast aspersions, but maybe that's where the Jeff Stoutland element, have him being removed as run game coordinator, comes into the conversation too, right? It's the fact that there might have just been way too many chefs in the kitchen. There may have been way too many people having input into the playbook, into the offensive play calling. And so now when you think about moving forward, you're going into an offense that there isn't a ton of input from 20 different people. Maybe part of the reason why 2025 and 2023 and 2021's offenses were nowhere as good as 2022 and 2024 is because the other 3 involved too many cooks in the kitchen. It involved too many people wanting input into the recipe. And now too many hands in the cooking operation created something that was not what you wanted, not what you needed, and probably was honestly disgusting. So if Mannion has autonomy and there's no more overlaps and combinations and guys trying to figure out how to make everything work, one of the reasons why it has been conjectured that the first few months of Kellen Moore with the Eagles was a problem was because Kellen Moore was trying to make everything work. He was trying to bring in his principles. He was trying to make the tush push fit into the offense. He's being told by the offensive line, you got to run the ball. He's being told by Sirianni, I need you to do X, Y, Z. You have Jalen Hurts complaining that there's too many differences in the verbiage. Remember Hurts had that comment where he said like 95 or 98% of the offensive verbiage was different. So Kellen Moore's getting all of this input, and it's probably input overload. So yeah, it did take a while for the offense to get going a couple years ago because Kellen Moore is trying to please everybody. Now, he did a better job of it than Brian Johnson and Kevin Patullo did, but he still had to do it. And, despite Shane Steichen's own background, Nick Sirianni insisted when he first came to Philadelphia that he was going to call plays. Now, Sirianni deserves credit halfway through the year for saying, I'm going to pivot. I'm not doing a good enough job. Shane, you do it. And it's probably not a coincidence that the first offseason that Shane Steichen has full play calling responsibilities and game plan authority, that was the year Jalen Hurts is the runner-up for the MVP and the Eagles go to a Super Bowl. Josh Hennig filling for Mike Gill here on the Sports Bash on 97.3 ESPN. We'll check back in on the Whitehorse RV text board in just a bit at 609-403-0973. We're also streaming live on YouTube and X at 973 ESPN. More from Kelsey and Foles on the season podcast. Speaking of Jalen Hurts, Kelsey talked about what he has seen and observed about Jalen Hurts so far when he has been around Eagles practices this season.
I think he's putting in a lot of work. I think he's excited about the new offense. They still have great players offensively. They were a part of a system that had immense success. We talk about elite quarterback. I don't know that there's another quarterback outside of maybe Patrick Mahomes that has played bigger in bigger games than Jalen Hurts out of all the guys that are active, right? What he did in the Super Bowl we lost, he played lights out. What he did in the Super Bowl we won, he played lights out. This dude has played so big in 2-minute drills when stuff is on the line.
And listen, whether you're going to, you could always characterize this as Kelsey has a bias because Jalen Hurts is his former teammate and he likes him. Okay. You could maybe qualify it as that. But I do think it's interesting that Kelsey says, look, Hurts is a guy who steps up when he's asked to step up. When the occasion demands him to step up and do a job, he always does it. And I think it's a very fascinating perspective because I don't think it is a coincidence that you have an organization like the Eagles that is saying, look, you're the franchise quarterback. We need to be better. So, Jalen, we've asked you to step up before, and you've done it for us. We're asking you to do it again. Now, it's not that Jalen Hurts is 100% every time it's a big moment or a clutch situation, because he's not. And frankly, I look at Jalen Hurts a little bit more like I would a great basketball player. It's not that Michael Jordan or Kobe Bryant or LeBron James or whatever player who is the best player on their team is making the final shot every single time he's asked to. It's not that the best player on the team always leads you back from a 10-point deficit every time it happens. It's the idea, though, that the majority of the time they get the job done. The majority of the time, when push comes to shove, it lands. And so I think that's kind of where I think Kelsey is kind of hitting on. The idea that, look, Jalen Hurts has shown us time and time again that when you ask him to step up, he steps up. And he's saying, you're asking him to learn a new offense. He's investing a lot of time into it. You're asking him to be a different quarterback moving forward. He's working on being that quarterback moving forward. And that's why I always ask the question, and Kelsey and Foles have kind of answered it here on the season podcast. How much of what Jalen Hurts has done or not done in the past been a reflection of what he's been asked or not asked to do? If the game plan demands that, hey, Jalen, you're not throwing the ball here, you're throwing the ball there. If the offense requires him to hold the ball longer because the receiver's more time to get down the field or get through the full maturation of the route, he's holding the ball longer. If the play calls for him to not go through all the options and that half those options are a decoy and the real goal is to get the ball to Devontae Smith or A.J. Brown at a specific point in the field, that's what he's going to do, right? So some of the criticism we've had of Hurts over the years kind of gets into, is he doing what he's being told or is he just not able to do it? And it sounds like Kelsey and Foles on the season podcast are saying Hurts has never been asked to do certain things before. It's not that he can't do it, but he's never been asked to do it. And that's why Nick Foles explained that the greatest essential for the Eagles' new offense is the relationship between Hurts and Mannion.
What's so valuable during preseason and training camp is Jalen Hurts and Sean Mannion's relationship.
Yeah.
I know for me with play callers, like Doug Peterson was a great one. Andy Reid was a great one. When he called in a play, let's just say Doug calls in a play, I know the purpose of the play in that situation. What's important going into the season for the Eagles is all these reps for Jalen Hurts and the backup quarterback, Andy Dalton, Tanner McKee, those guys.
Yep.
They need to know why Sean is calling plays and the purpose of those plays to not go off the rails.
And I always go back to Hurts's attitude last year toward Patullo was always this very he didn't want to say the wrong thing, but the body language showed that he had zero interest and zero belief in that guy as the play caller. And even though the majority of people didn't want to acknowledge it, there was a disconnect between the quarterback and the play caller. Not just last year, but also in 2023. And not just those 2 years, but also Sirianni's first year in 2021. So in the years there's a disconnect between the quarterback and the play caller, what do you know? Things didn't work. And Foles went on to give a whole long explanation about, his connection with Doug Peterson. And one of the reasons why it worked so well is because, Foles went in this whole long explanation about how him and Doug Peterson, he knew why Doug was calling a certain play on third down versus another play. He knew why the purpose behind why Doug would, if you're down by a touchdown or you're up by a touchdown, he understood the why behind the play calling. So it made it easier for him as a quarterback to execute it. Jalen Hurts made an interesting comment this offseason where he talked about how, he's learning the why behind what Sean Mannion is doing, and that gets him excited. So it sounds like for these quarterbacks, maybe we have not factored in enough the relationship or lack thereof between Hurts and these play callers. Now, if you want to argue maybe Hurts is part of the problem, then maybe he's not the most easy person to communicate or work with, that is certainly a possibility. But as Jason Kelsey goes on to explain, every good offense in the NFL today is doing in some form or another what Sean Mannion and the Eagles want to do this season.
All of the best offenses in the NFL right now establish the run and then have the play actions that attack it. And everybody is just sitting in these too high, putting a umbrella on the top of it, eliminating the big play. That's why like you're seeing like the Detroit Lions and all the teams that run this version, and even the Eagles when they were a really good running team having so much success. Like there are a lot of advantageous looks that you can get to in the run game, and then you start getting them to creep up and try and defend that, and then you get the play action, you get them on the boot or the shot downfield for sure.
So again, it's the idea that Kelsey is saying, look, the league is running a certain style of offense. So it's on us to keep up with the Joneses. It's not to reinvent the wheel. And even in the past, when there have been offensive innovations, okay, when Bill Walsh first revolutionized the NFL at putting the 49ers in the first variation of the full-blown West Coast offense, or whether it was, Air Coryell with the Chargers and Dan Fouts, or whether it was, the next stage of the West Coast offense with Mike Holmgren and Brett Favre in Green Bay, or if it was Sean Payton's style of no huddle spread formation with Drew Brees in New Orleans. All these offenses are still using concepts from other teams and other successful systems. The problem in Philadelphia the last few years was it felt like the Eagles and Sirianni were so intent on running this offense or else. And so now you have a brand new guy with a brand new system and a brand new everything coming in here. And Jason Kelsey went on to say on the season podcast with Nick Foles that the real issue isn't necessarily Hurts or the players, but it might be Sean Mannion, actually.
To me, that's the only question mark I have left with Sean. Like, I think I've talked to him. He's very smart. He's very quick. I like the way he thinks about the game. And I think he has a mind for the game of football, understands spacing. I am looking to see what the play calling is going to be like. And that's one thing that you're not going to see until you get going, right? Like Shane Steichen was such an unbelievable. He was always, this is setting up this is setting up that.
And that goes back to the comment that Sal Palantonio made this morning on Unsportsmanlike that we played earlier, where he said, some of this has nothing to do with Jalen Hurts. It is about the play calling. It is about the coaching. It is about the players around him. And I'm going to be curious to see as we get into the season, okay, if there are games where it's a 2-minute drill, Hurts is driving down the field, Hurts throws the ball, and I'm not saying they will do this, but Hollywood Brown or Elijah Moore or Saquon Barkley or fill in the blank player drops a pass on third down and then they can't convert on fourth down. How much of the criticism the next day with our day after Eagles conversations here on the Sports Bash on 97.3 ESPN? Well, Mike Gill is over at Ocean Casino Resort in Atlantic City. How many of those days after games are we going to have a conversation about the receivers dropping a pass or the blockers not blocking versus Jalen didn't do the job? Jalen should have figured it out. It's all Jalen's fault. I can't wait for these conversations to come here on 97.3 ESPN. Speaking of Mike Gill, coming up on the other side, we will hear from the one and only Mike Gill live from Jamestown, New York, with the latest on his baseball team. How are they doing up there in the Babe Ruth the Babe Ruth 13-year-old World Series? I'm probably even saying it wrong, but Mike Gill can explain it all because all of you have been asking me, how's Mike's team doing? Well, Mike will tell you next here on the Sports Bash on 97.3 ESPN.
You're listening to the Sports Bash with Mike Gill.
Never thought this radio stunt would catch on so big.
On 97.3 ESPN.
Town Square Media has teamed up with Seize the Deal for incredible offers from some fantastic local businesses. Get this great deal starting Friday at 9 a.m. Get one $50 gift card for just $25 to the Island Grill in Ocean City. It's the area's go-to restaurant for fresh catch local seafood with a laid-back beach vibe. That's a $50 gift card for just $25. Get this great deal starting this Friday at seizethedeal.com.
SeizeTheDeal.com.
The 3 o'clock hour of the Sports Bash is brought to you by Broadleaf and Air Conditioning. Call 609-390-3907 or visit them online at broadleaf.net.
It was a chance to go against a great defense and see, what this new offense and the potential that it can get to. It's been very educative from a offensive standpoint, to say the least. We have a chance to do something special, but in order to do that, we can't have days like the last 2 days of up front. It always starts up front, and we've had multiple false starts. It starts with me in lane, and it's got to trickle down to the receivers and everyone that's on that field. And so we have the potential to do a lot, but that's all it is. It's potential. It's we see the limit that the sky's the limit. Everybody always says that, but we see where we can get to, and we had a good day yesterday, and today we're going to clean up some of that less boxing and more football.
Honest assessment a couple hours ago from Jordan Mailata after joint practice day number 2. Josh Hennig filling in for Mike Gill on the Sports Bash here on 97.3 ESPN. Speaking of Mike Gill is here with us. He's on the phone, though. He's not in the studio because he is still with his A-Shore baseball team. So we'll get some updates from him on his A-Shore team and his thoughts on the week for the Eagles and the Phillies. First of all, Mike, how is it going up there in Jamestown, New York?
Josh, I'm walking to the National Comedy Center right now. We have an off day today because we are the number 1 seed and have a bye today. So we'll play tomorrow night at 7 o'clock. And today we're just kind of finally relaxing. It's been a very busy couple days.
So if I had $1, Mike, for everybody who has been asking me this week how the team is doing, I'd probably be very rich and could give you a commission. But since I don't have $1 for every time it's asked, kind of give the audience some information about how the week has been for you guys and what the upcoming weekend, like the schedule, looks like.
Well, we finished pool play 4-0. We start off with Puerto Rico. We beat them 10-0. We played Connecticut. We won 12-0. And then we played Washington and won 10-0. And then yesterday we played Tallahassee, who we have met many times over the years, and we're down 4-2 in the 6th. We actually were down in that game first time. We've been down all summer and came back and won that game 9-4. And that ended pool play. So now we're into the bracket play. So if you lose, you're done. So starting today, which we don't play today, we'll play the winner of one of the games today. And tomorrow night at 7 o'clock, we'll play one of those games. If we lose, we go home. If we win on Saturday at 1 o'clock, we'll be in the finals.
What's interesting, I think, Mike, is not everybody knows how the setup works. So I think a lot of people have kind of been wondering, what is the structure for you? How are you and the team feeling? Because you've done this a few times before now, so you kind of have a good feel for how the setup is, how everything works. Do you feel like everything is going, semi-smoothly heading into the weekend? Do you think it's been different than years past? Give everybody a picture of what your feeling is right now with the team going into the weekend.
Yeah, well, I mean, the fact that we really haven't been we've had 4 games, 3 of them, we won pretty handily. And then yesterday it kind of showed, even if we get pushed a little bit, our kids were down and we were able to kind of get off the mat and come back late in that game. But it's always a little different experience. It's weird because in 2021, for people that remember, the team that we had went to the World Series and we won the World Series. So we were in this exact town. So, we're going to a lot of the same places, a lot of the same. And then we rode by the new Bills Stadium and checked that out. You just do a lot of things like that. We have a host family, and they take us all over the place. They throw picnics for us, and they take us to different restaurants and show us around the town. So we've been doing a lot of things that we didn't do the last time because we have a different host family. So, yeah, it's just a really cool experience. But in the end, it's a long, we were at the regionals the week before, or 2 weeks ago, And then we're here, and there's a lot of downtime. You're playing, you're finding stuff to do. So you're trying to intertwine that and not tire yourself out. Remember, these are 13-year-old kids, so they're looking for stuff to do when they're not playing, and you don't want them to tire themselves out. But overall, it's been a very jam-packed week. We're very happy to have the day off today.
That sounds like it. Mike Gill joining us live from Jamestown, New York. His A-Shore team is back in action tomorrow night heading into the weekend. Mike, I played purposely the Joy Mailata audio because, there are a lot of scuffles at the joint practices today. And, it seems like whether you listen to Mailata or Saquon Barkley or Lane Johnson, they're painting a picture, Mike, that, a lot of their success moving forward is going to come down to them basically cleaning things up on the offensive side of the ball. Sean Mannion made that comment earlier this week in his press conference, where he said that, they have to be better at staying on time and not committing penalties, on the offensive line. So the messaging seems to be very similar from the Eagles, Mike, that basically, hey, if we do our job, we're going to be pretty good.
Yeah, listen, their offensive line last year, I think, knows that they struggled, and there's Mailata and Lane Johnson. Everybody's back. They know it. I think everybody kind of knows what was wrong with this offense last year, and a lot of it was the offensive line wasn't great. The interesting part is, as we all know, they have a new offense now. It did not look good in the preseason game on Saturday night. Now, no starters are in that game. So I don't know what you take from that, but it's going to be a very interesting thing to see how this team adjusts to this new offense and, whether it just clicks for them or is it a long season of watching some sloppy offense again. I think they put a lot of stock into Sean Mannion here. So this is a guy with no play calling experience. Has never been a guy who's been a coordinator, and he's now in charge of a team that has Super Bowl aspirations. So a lot of pressure on him.
Jason Kelsey said on Nick Foles' podcast that Sean Mannion has full autonomy over the offense, unlike coordinators before him. It sounds like an interesting change there for Mannion compared to guys in past years with the Eagles.
Yeah, he'd say about, again, the pressure on Mannion to basically get this thing right? Is just like the fact that Mannion is in charge, a guy with no experience. It's not like you're handing this over and you're saying, hey, this guy has won Super Bowls and has this great resume. When you brought Vic Fangio in here, you run the defense. We don't have anything we're not going to say a word. This is a completely different situation where the offense has been basically Nick Sirianni's had his fingertips on this whole thing for the duration that he's been here. So I think a lot of people are very intrigued to see what changes, what additions, what stays, what goes. But again, it goes right back to a lot of pressure goes squarely on Sean Mannion and by proxy, of course, Jalen Hurts.
Well, Sal Palantonio was on Sportsman this morning, and he joined us yesterday here on the Sports Bash on 97.3 ESPN. He's putting up the message, Mike, that he thinks the pressure is also on Howie Roseman to make sure that he properly placed Brown, that he properly has the roster around Jalen Hurts to be successful.
Yeah, that's interesting. Southside, by the way, he texted me and said that he was on. I told him I was away. He said, Josh did a great job filling in. So good to hear Sal was on with you yesterday because I know that was the big story. Them and every time I look up or out to eat or whatever, you see the Eagles playing the Patriots in the joint practices. But yeah, you put a lot of stock in guys like Tavian Wicks and Tramp Joyce and Malachi Lemon, and Sal's been on with us saying, he's concerned that Lemon might be a little small and injury prone, and so far that has been a factor. He has not been able to get on the field. You've got Hollywood Brown, a guy that you signed that apparently is, not. If he didn't sign for $5 million, is he locked to make the team? So that is a big Howie Roseman thing. Did he bring in the right guys to complement Devontae Smith?
Yeah, that's the question that Andrew DeSheko was saying the other day about how he doesn't. If you just said if Hollywood Brown was to give it $5 million, he wasn't sure if he's in a position to make this team. Mike, I want to ask you when we switch over to the Phillies. For you, is there a guy on the offense that's not named Jalen Hurts that you feel like is the biggest question mark, though, of all those guys coming into the season?
I mean, the first answer that comes to mind would be Devontae Smith. Can he be the lead guy and be the main receiver in an offense? We saw him do it as a rookie, but that was, 5 years ago. Is he more mature? Is he better suited to do it? The other guy would be Saquon Barkley. I mean, 2 years ago, he was a guy with 2,000-plus yards. One of the top 3 candidates for MVP of the league. Last year, complete non-factor for the most part. I mean, there's not a game that Barkley had that stood out in your mind of, what a great game. What an unbelievable game he had. So is he still a lead back in this league that can be a guy that the other team has to account for every single week? So I'm going to look at Barkley's role in this offense because a lot of guys who have been in this Mannion style of offense have big roles and catch the ball too. It's not something Barkley's very, adept to. Obviously he had the drop against Atlanta. We all remember that a couple of years ago. He's had other drops. He's not a great pass catcher. So what kind of impact will he have in this offense, I think, is a big story.
Mike Gill joining us live from Jamestown, New York, where his A-Shore baseball team will be playing again tomorrow night, heading into the weekend. Mike, speaking of the Phillies in baseball, how about Aaron Nola? 7 innings, 1 run. I mean, it was vintage Nola last night. 8 of his last 9 starts. Nola's been giving you quality outings. Are you starting to feel a little bit better about Aaron Nola in this rotation moving forward?
It's funny. Last night someone said, how about Nola? 7 innings, 1 hit. Do you feel any different or better about Nola? I said, not necessarily. Every once in a while, a bad pitcher throws a gem. And I'm not saying is he bad? Is he just not the same as he used to be? His numbers aren't good. And for him to do that was encouraging. But do we think in game 4 of a playoff series, he's giving you 7 innings, 1-hit baseball? Probably not, but very encouraging. And look, they're playing. It's funny. Right before I left, if you remember, I'm saying if you're moving Bohm to the 8 hole, get him out of the lineup, put Hill out in right field. And Bohm goes 5 for 5 one day. Then he hits a home run and goes 2 for 4. The next day, I said, every time I blast somebody and tell them to get him out of the lineup, that's when these guys get moving here. So now all of a sudden, Bohm has kind of moved himself back up the lineup again. But overall, do we trust Bohm? Do we trust Nola? Do we trust some of these guys that we've questioned all season long? Probably not.
No, you can't trust him too much, but maybe it is encouraging. Maybe 8 of 9 starts giving you something good. At least you feel a little bit less stressed when he's going to the mound. Speaking of stress, I got to ask you, Mike. So Bryce Harper, he's on a 23-game on base streak. Do you remember the day that was the start of this 23-game on base streak?
Absolutely not. Over the last 2 weeks, between coaching these games, practicing, and all that stuff, days are running. I don't even know what day it is today. I'm sure you can tell in my voice. We're just tired, man. It's a long grind up here. It's a battle of attrition. You go 4-0 up here, and you still have 2 games left to go, and you don't know where other teams are, what hotels they're staying in, how their days are going, and what their setups. It's just so no, I have no idea what happened 23 days ago or when Bryce Harper started this streak. I would imagine right after the All-Star break, sometime around then.
It was the game in Miami when he infamously told the media, "We need help."
Okay,
that was the day.
All right. Well, guess what? Yeah, they got a little bit of help. Luis Ariz. Did they get enough help? Probably not. Still, I don't think, even though it's funny, we're looking at the standings, they were 5.5 back the other day when I looked. There's 5 back still of the Cubs, I think, in the wild card. Maybe that changed after last night. But I still look at those numbers and say, I don't feel great if I have to match up with the Cubs. I've been saying that for a while now. If you're the second wild card team and you have to go to Chicago and play the Cubs, I don't like that matchup.
No, I hate that matchup. But I will say they are closing ground on the Braves, Mike. So, maybe those games with the Braves coming up next month hold a little bit more weight now if the Braves keep falling apart here.
Well, it's imperative. I said, if you can catch the Braves, that's your best, probably map to get yourself through. Because playing the Cubs in that first wild card and having to go to Chicago and facing probably 2 or 3 lefties in that series would not be ideal.
Mike, I'll let you get back to decompressing on the team's day off. Again, you guys are up there in Jamestown, New York. A lot of people have been asking about how you guys are doing. So, just know there's a ton of people who are invested in your run again this year.
Yeah, that's awesome. I mean, we had a ton of donations. People from the community donated to the team and the travel. There's an Atlantic Shore Facebook page if you want to try to keep up with us. We play tomorrow night at 7 o'clock. We don't know who we play yet, but yesterday we played Tallahassee and beat them 9-4. Always good. They won the World Series last year. When we won in 2021, on our way to the World Series championship game, we beat them. So we anticipate probably seeing them or Hawaii. So we got a couple more days hopefully here, but it's been a long one.
All right, Mike, get your rest. Talk to you later.
All right, everybody. See you.
Josh Hennig continuing to fill in for Mike Gill here on the Sports Bash on 97.3 ESPN. Don't forget this hour of the Bash being brought to you by Broadleaf's Plumbing, Heating, and Air Conditioning. Broadleaf's is your trusted source for heating and plumbing service and air conditioning installation for generations. Call them at 609-390-3907 or visit them online at broadleafs.net. Well, you've heard me mention Sal Palantonio a lot today. He was on with us yesterday. He was on Sportsmanlike again this morning. He had more to say about Jalen Hurts and the Eagles. That's our Sportsmanlike moment of the day. Coming up next here on 97.3 ESPN.
The Birds are back. Catch Philadelphia Eagles preseason football as the Eagles get ready for the 2026 season. Heading to Foxborough to face the AFC champion Patriots. Saturday night game coverage starts at 6 with Merrill Reese and Mike Quick calling all the action starting at 7.
He takes his drop. He's looking. He's grabbed. They're going to sack him and throw him down at the 23-yard line. Jalen Carter.
This is South Jersey's radio home of the Philadelphia Eagles. 97.3 ESPN.
Fantasy football season is here. Book your fantasy football league draft at Chachi's 13th floor, above Villa Raffici and Absecon. For just $20 per person, your draft package includes great food and cold beer. Chachi's 13th floor, proud partner of 97.3 ESPN and the official sports bar industry Ace restaurant.
You're still glowing, flirting, grooving. You've still got it, but your immune system weakens as you age, making it harder to fight illnesses like pneumococcal pneumonia and RSV. Vaccines are a key part of any health routine and can help protect you from getting really sick. Ask your doctor or pharmacist which vaccines you need. See more at PfizerForAll.com. Sponsored by Pfizer.
It's the Sports Bash with Mike Gill.
Do I have everybody's attention now?
On 97.3 ESPN and the 97.3 ESPN free mobile app.
The 3 Sports Bash is brought by Plumbing, Heating, and Air Conditioning. Call 609-390-3907 or visit them online at broadleys.net.
I don't think that Jalen Hurts is under any pressure. I think the pressure is all on A, the front office, and B, the coaching staff, to make sure that the Eagles have and Jalen Hurts has what it takes to get back to the Super Bowl. You know, A.J. Brown, the decision was made to trade him. It was a smart decision for everybody, I believe. No question. But you got to replace him. He was 30% of your passing yards last year. And you watched them yesterday. Yes, Antavian Wicks looks good. Yes, Darius Cooper looks good. We haven't seen anything from Mekhi Lemon, their first-round pick. Devontae Smith has been on and off the field. He's a true number one wide receiver when you look at all the numbers. But it's up to Sean Mannion and Nick Sirianni to put Jalen Hurts in a position where he can succeed.
That was Sal Palantonio this morning on his Sports Like Hurt 6 a.m. to 10 a.m. Eastern on 97.3 ESPN. What a fascinating perspective from Sal Pal, because it's like Sal Palantonio has balanced the Evan Cohen take on Jalen Hurts with the Chris Caney take on Nick Sirianni. This idea that Jalen Hurts can be an MVP caliber quarterback if the coaches do their job, and the coaches don't do their job. Maybe Canty is right that Sirianni's job might be in jeopardy. Now, I don't think it's going to be in jeopardy because I tend to believe what Nick Foles and Jason Kelsey said on Nick Foles' season podcast, that this is going to be a much better offense this year. And I think it is going to be because of Sean Mannion. And maybe it is Sean Mannion and Jalen Hurts' connection that will save Sirianni's quote-unquote job, save his job, quote-unquote, as Canty has pointed out on Sports Play. But it's very interesting that Sal Pal is saying, hey, Hurts got no pressure. This guy's won a Super Bowl MVP. He's been to 2 Super Bowls, something that no Eagles quarterback has ever done. Sal Palantonio says the pressure is on Sirianni, Howie Roseman, Sean Mannion for the 2026 NFL season. On Sports Like Hurt 6 a.m. and 10 a.m. Eastern, right here on 97.3 ESPN. Football and 4 with Adam Caplan is next.
Get your game on at the Fanatic Sportsbook. Go to Ocean Casino Resort. Go for the win. For more information, visit theoceanac.com.
Home of the Philadelphia Eagles.
They got him again!
Sixers.
Bang! It's good! Ball game!
And Flyers.
Tipped in front of the net!
97.3 ESPN. WENJ. WENJ HD. Millville, Atlantic City. A Town Square media station serving all of South Jersey.
Football at Forward, powered by the Inside the Birds podcast, InsideTheBirds.com. And day 2 of joint practices is done, and Adam Caplan was on the ground in the place, and it's going to tell us the latest from joint practices with the Patriots today. A lot of extracurriculars on the fields today. Saquon Barkley was pretty mad about that, actually. He did not like it at all. Joy Mailata said there was too much boxing, not enough football today. And Adam Caplan is back with us for Football at 4, powered by the Inside the Birds podcast. Like, subscribe, and download wherever you get your podcasts. Adam, how's it going?
Good. You know what it was, Josh, is there was some pushing, and it was actually a little bit hotter today, a little bit more humid. So when that happens, temperatures flare a little bit. It's totally understandable. It's funny. I was talking to someone with the Patriots who said that you can't do this. He's like, we did real well yesterday. We don't need to have it dealt. We don't. I'm not so sure we need to actually practice again like this, but they did. It was a little bit shorter today, by the way. The Eagles' individual period was actually on their own on a lower field, so they didn't really get to start with the joint part of it until 20 minutes in, and they actually ended like 10, 15 minutes early. But a crisp practice. It was more situational, red zone, goal line. Hollywood Brown was the star of their passing game in terms of the receivers. The Eagles were down a lot of receivers today. They were down 4 or 5 of them, rest and injury. So Hollywood Brown had to be the man today. He had a good day. And so did number 13, Dontavian Wicks.
Can we hit on Hollywood Brown for a minute real quick, Adam? Because, this is a guy who they gave $5 million to. And
I know.
He is somebody who people thought coming in could have a role in this offense. So it feels like, maybe today was the day that he, for lack of a better term, saved his role in the offense.
Well, look, he's going to be on the team. They guaranteed the $5 million, Josh, so he's going to be here. But the thing that we don't understand is why they don't throw the ball downfield to him, like Quez Watkins. Okay, he's had a couple 9 routes the last couple of days. So now Elijah Moore, there was a little bit of busted coverage yesterday, and Moore caught it. Hurts hit him. It's wide open, hit him. But yeah, I don't know. But it was interesting because Johnny Wilson's not practicing. Lemon's not practicing. Smitty's not practicing. Elijah Moore got the day off today. So you're running out of guys, and the one veteran they had, in addition to Wicks, was Hollywood Brown, and Hurts hit a beautiful pass from the 15-yard line. He just absolutely rifled the throw. The cornerbacks, the cornerback didn't see it because he had his back turned to it. He saw where the leverage was, and Hurts, and a great concentration for Hollywood Brown to get his feet in, right, or he would have hit the goalpost. Like it was a tight throw. The only way he could hit him is it actually had to be perfect or no chance. So yeah, Hollywood Brown very active today, no doubt.
Today, Jordan Mailata and yesterday, Lane Johnson both made comments, Adam, about how the offensive line, basically needs to clean things up a little bit more to help the offense stay on time, stay on track. Was that something that you've observed the last 2 days, that, the offensive line has kind of led to maybe some of the inaccuracies on the offense?
Yeah, I would say the run blocking for the most part was really good yesterday, but pass pro, they gave up pressures, no doubt. Now, again, you can't hit the quarterback, so they rarely blow plays dead because they let the play go through. Because if you call the play dead, there will not be as much offense because you want to progress. But yeah, I understand what those guys are saying. I totally get that. But good work for the backups. The backups got plenty of work. Starters who obviously they're not going to play in the preseason. And look, we're 2 days out, by the way. The game is Saturday night. And they don't have to travel very far. I was told the Eagles are staying like 2 miles away. So, it was good. Talking to them. They felt like overall they got really good work. Telling the Patriots they felt like they got really good work, and they know Sirianni. They've had work with him before, so they know it, and it's good stuff. And yesterday was a little bit. I would say it was a little bit humbling for their secondary, Josh, I should say, but they really bounced back much better today.
Adam Caplan joining us live from Foxborough, where the Eagles finished day 2 of joint practice, joining us here for Football at 4, powered by the Inside the Birds podcast, InsideTheBirds.com. Josh Hennig filling in for Mike Gill on a Thursday edition of The Bash on 97.3 ESPN. Adam, before we move to the defense, were there any other big takeaways or any other highlights that you had from day 2 of joint practices for the offense?
Offensively, Will Shipley continues to look good. He's had a really good 2 days. I like the screen game. I'm pleasantly surprised, but as we always say, we can't promise you anything. We learned with the DeAndre Swift situation 3 years ago, what you see is maybe not what you get. That's exactly what happened. Swift was used a ton in training camp practices, and they wound up not being used at all, pretty much, in the screen game or the passing game. So, but Shipley's coming on. Oh, by the way, Shipley looks like he's going to have a real shot to be their kickoff returner. He's got a lot of work as their kickoff returner in these practices.
That's an interesting development to keep an eye on. Adam, flipping over to the defense, obviously there's a lot of talk on social media about A.J. Brown versus the Birds defense. So what was day 2 like in that matchup?
Yeah, they did better against him. A.J. abused them yesterday. There's no question. He and it's funny. I'm told that the Patriots absolutely did not game plan. They didn't try to go after Woolen. They ran their offense like they normally would in any practice. And they just had tremendous success against Woolen and over the middle. Be it what you want. Now, because they didn't do a lot of full team stuff like they did yesterday, you didn't see a lot of that today. So it was a little bit different, but the secondary is better, no doubt. There was a play like, we don't get you can only go by what your eyes show you. There was one play where Woolen had really good coverage. Drake May kind of threw it through 2 defenders, and one of them was Woolen. Well, I don't think Woolen saw the ball, and Romeo Dobbs kept his feet in. I don't know how he did it. It was a great throw. No, I thought they rebounded much better today, but again, not a lot of full team stuff. They didn't do a lot of that today.
Can you tell us anything about the edge guys? Because that's obviously a position of a lot of curiosity, because with no Grenard, right? We don't know what exactly that position is going to look like week 1.
Yeah. Hunt's had a good 2 days. You've seen Nolan Smith. He's healthy. That's a really good thing. We're seeing number 57, AJ Epinesa, who's learning how to drop into coverage. It's been a struggle for him. But it's not that he can't do it. He's just not been asked to do it before. So he's learning on it. There's no question it's a challenge for him, but this is what Vic does. And the guys know it. And, by the way, Jay's son had a pick. He had a pick where the ball was going to hit the ground. It was just deflected, and he got it. It wasn't like he read it, the defense. He just happened to – ball popped up in the air, and he dove for it and got it. It's going to be interesting, Josh, before we get out of here, I posed this question to Andrew on a show that we did yesterday. Because Jeremiah Trotter Jr. has been so good, we understand Vic does not rotate his linebackers, but is there a scenario where maybe situationally, maybe Trotter comes in for Campbell in certain situations? We haven't seen that yet, but Campbell, by the way, he's played with the 2s. Like he in the red zone yesterday, he played with the 2s. They started to mix and match guys. So again, we know Vic doesn't do this, but Trot Jr. has been so good. There's no competition. He's the number 3 linebacker, and he has been cross-trained at the will and the Mike in their scheme. You can do either. He's just a really good football player. Well, unfortunately, because Vic doesn't like to rotate his guys, he's not going to play very much on defense.
I think that leads then to the question, Adam, and it may seem like a very simple answer, but I know there's people who are listening on the audience right now. They might be asking, well, if Trotter Jr. is playing so well, is there a chance he could be linebacker number 2 instead of linebacker number 3?
No. They're not. No. It's funny. Definitely not, but this is what I would tell you. It goes for just about anyone. If Vic doesn't like what he's seeing out of the starting unit in season, he'll make a change. Like I was telling Andrew and I at lunch today. If Tariq Woolen is not playing well, hello, Cooper DeJean back at corner. He doesn't want to do that, but Vic doesn't care. It's whatever's best for the football team. Right. He doesn't care about hard feelings, you know?
Yep.
And that's it. I mean, look, he didn't, we told our Patreon people this year and a half ago. We had heard, our belief was that Vic didn't see Coop as a full-time corner long-term. And that's probably true. But at the same time, you got to win football games. And they are not deep at corner. I got to tell you, Jonathan Jones is hurt. He didn't practice. He wasn't even in uniform. He didn't even have a helmet. So he's got a shoulder injury. He's a 33-year-old corner. They don't have a fourth corner right now. They have no idea who the fourth corner is. It's not Mac McWilliams. It's not Corey Bennett who's hurt. They don't know who that is. So that's a position to watch out, see if they make a move there.
Well, I think that's where the curiosity is. Adam, before I let you go, it's August 20th. Historically, there's been many seasons where Harry Roseman makes a move before the start of the season. My mind always goes back to C.J. Gardner-Johnson, Ronald Darby, or just a couple. So are we in prime Howie make transition acquisition territory here?
Absolutely, definitely. There's no question. They got it. Now, it doesn't have to be a huge move at corner because they already know who's starting. Or, definitely offensive line at guard is not very good. I think that it was one of our pre-training camp questions. It still has not answered itself. That's why they've cross-trained Drew Kendall, whose dad, Pete, I believe I saw at practice today, former offensive guard in the NFL and center for the Jets and Patriots. Look, Josh, Howie is very aggressive. He likes making trades. He's made the most trades in the NFL since he became general manager. So I don't see that changing, to be honest with you.
For more coverage on the Eagles, check out the Inside the Birds podcast. Like, subscribe, and download wherever you get your podcasts. Caplan NFL on the X platform and on Instagram as well. And, of course, Adam will be back with us next week. Tomorrow, we'll hear from Andrew Duchecka, who Adam mentioned has been with him all week up there in Foxborough, Massachusetts. Adam, great stuff today.
All right, man. Thank you.
And, of course, Football at 4, as always, being brought to you by Ocean Casino Resort. Fanatic Sportsbook, the Gallery Bar Booking Games, is Ocean's go-to game day destination with huge screens, great drinks, and all the sports book action. It's a perfect place to catch every play and celebrate every win with big screens, big bets. Game day hits different at Ocean. To learn more, visit theoceanac.com. And I'm just saying that Fanatic Sportsbook, the Gallery Bar Booking Games, is a pretty sweet spot if you're going somewhere to watch the Eagles in Atlantic City this football season. All right, let's hit on some of the points that Adam made here before we check back in on the text board. I've been kind of neglecting you guys, so I'll circle back at 609-403-0973 on the White Horse RV text board. So a couple things he talked about here. Let's start with the defense. I'll go back to the offense. Number one, Adam talked about how Vic Fangio is unafraid to bench a guy and put somebody else in the lineup if that guy's going to be the better player. And that's why I asked the question about Jeremiah Trotter Jr., because it's not just Adam Caplan and Andrew Duchecka. There's a lot of people who have been watching training camp who saw Jeremiah Trotter Jr. in the first preseason game. There's a lot of people who are seeing the same thing, that Jeremiah Trotter Jr. has made a huge jump from last year to this year. And it's not that Jahad Campbell's a bad player, but Adam pointed out two scenarios that could play itself out. One is if you're not getting the level of production from Campbell that you want, Fangio said the other day, he said himself to Vic Fangio that Campbell was behind the 8 ball last year because Nakobe Dean, when he came back healthy, he got so much playing time. That's why Campbell played in the preseason game. So if you have a guy who is not picking up the defense as well, goes into the season and is not, fully lined up with what they want from the position, could there be a scenario where you start seeing less Campbell at linebacker or more Jeremiah Trotter Jr.? The other side of the coin, as Adam mentioned, Fangio doesn't like to do it, but is there a scenario where the Eagles say, look, we want Campbell on the field because he's a playmaker, but we want Trotter Jr. to play linebacker. We're thin at pass rush. Campbell's background at Alabama was as a pass rusher in a lot of formations. Could the Eagles turn around and look at Campbell as their short-term answer at pass rusher until Grenard is fully recovered from his pectoral injury? Or, and I'm not saying this is going to happen, but right now, if you go through the Eagles' depth chart when it comes to pass rush, okay? Right now, if the season started today, your top 3 pass rushers would be Jalix Hunt, Nolan Smith, and Ebiketie. No one's getting excited about that edge rush. Everyone likes Jalix Hunt. He has rave reviews from everybody. But there's no one out there who's looking at that edge rush group I just named and they're getting excited. No one. And it's probably part of the reason why AJ Epinesa is even here, is because they're so thin at that position, they might have to ask Epinesa to be a third defensive end in a lot of scenarios, or be a third down edge rusher, even though that might not be necessarily his best skill set. It's also part of the way you brought back Teron Jackson, because Teron Jackson has experience in Philadelphia rushing the passer. So if they go into the season and they say, you know what, Ebiketie ain't it, Nolan Smith hasn't advanced enough, we don't want to start Teron Jackson, giving him a ton of playing time to get exposed, could there be a scenario where Jahai Campbell fills that void? That's number one. Number 2, on defense, he said the Eagles don't have an answer at who the third and fourth corners are necessarily yet. Howie loves to make trades, as Adam said. Could we see the Eagles looking at other teams' rosters and say, who out there has a veteran who's going to get cut anyway that we can bring in? Now, it does get a little tricky when you're talking about backup players, because if the guy doesn't have experience in Fangio's style of defense, is Fangio even going to give the guy a real look? That's why there might be a scenario where Howie makes a trade this Sunday or Monday, getting the guy in here next week for the third preseason game to give Fangio more time to look at that corner and make a real clear decision when it comes to depth at corner. Now, flip it over to the offensive side of the ball. The wide receiver conversation I find very interesting, because you heard Sal Palantonio. We played the audio earlier. He was on Sports Like this morning. You heard him with me yesterday here on the Sports Bash. Josh Hennig filling it for Mike Gill on 97.3 ESPN. Sal has been very clear that the Eagles don't have a definitive answer of how they are replacing the A.J. Brown part of the offense. And I don't mean the most literal part of the offense, but in terms of targets, in terms of who is getting those reps. We thought coming in the training camp, your top 2 receivers are probably going to be Devontae Smith and Dontavian Wicks. But as Adam mentioned, the third and fourth receivers are a huge question. Hollywood Brown had a good day today. Elijah Moore had a good day yesterday. We haven't even seen any of Mekhi Lemon at all. Eli Stowers, no offense to him, the rookie tight end has basically been relegated to the second team at this point. He's not getting any reasonable action with the first team. And for as much as everyone loves Darius Cooper, they love his route running, they love his hands, he is smaller than A.J. Brown. He is 2 to 3 inches shorter. He's about the same width and strength, but he's a shorter receiver. So throwing those go balls to him like you did to A.J. Brown is not going to work the same way. So for the Eagles, they got to figure out what their wide receiver setup is, because if you're asking Jalen Hurts to run an offense that is heavily predicated on timing, that is heavily predicated on the quarterback throwing to a spot. Again, we talked about this, the viral video of Jalen Hurts throwing that interception at practice. Multiple people who cover the team has said Hollywood Brown was the target. He didn't run to the space and open the opportunity for Quinyon Mitchell to read the play and get the interception. There's a lot of conjecture right now that the reason why Jalen Hurts is throwing interceptions the last 2 days at the joint practices is because the receivers are not where they're supposed to be. That the timing element of this offense is still not in sync. And that's where Lane Johnson and Jordan Mailata are coming out to the media and saying, we as the offensive line got to do a better job to help this offense reach its potential. So maybe the issues on offense and with receiver are a blessing in disguise for Philadelphia, because now they can leave these joint practices with a clearer understanding of what exactly they have to fix, who exactly they can depend on, and who they can't depend on heading into the season. And I hate to be this blunt about it, but if this training camp keeps going the way it's going, I would not be surprised. I'm not saying it's going to happen, but I'm saying I wouldn't be surprised if there's a scenario where if Mekhi Lemon can't get on the field at practice or in these preseason games, if he becomes an injury reserve designation with a return of after 8 weeks. Because right now, your receivers are Devontae Smith, Dontavian Wicks are the top two. But after that, it's some weird combination of Darius Cooper, Elijah Moore, and Hollywood Brown. You're already at 5 receivers. And the only way you would keep Lemon as a 6th receiver right now is if, and I say if, you heard him mention Will Shipley. Could Will Shipley take the kick and punt return duties away from Britton Covey, and that's where you get your 6th receiver spot? Get ready for roster gymnastics in about 10 days with the Eagles roster. The initial 53-man roster is 10 days away. We will have it covered here on your home for Eagles football in South Jersey, 97.3 ESPN. And yes, Merrill Reese and Mike Quick will be on the call this Saturday for Eagles versus Patriots. Pre-game coverage starts at 6 p.m. And then Merrill Reese and Mike Quick got you covered right here on 97.3 ESPN for every Eagles game here in South Jersey, not just this Saturday, but all season long. 97.3 ESPN, your home for all the Eagles coverage you want and need. Coming up on the other side, Knicks Nuggets. Nick Earnshaw is back. Let's see what he has to say today on the Sports Bash. Josh Hennig filling for Mike Gill on 97.3 ESPN FM, the 97.3 ESPN mobile app powered by First Bank of Seattle City. Here we are streaming live on YouTube and X. Just follow at 973 ESPN.
The Birds are back. Catch Philadelphia Eagles preseason football as the Eagles get ready for the 2026 season. Heading to Foxborough to face the AFC champion Patriots. Saturday night game coverage starts at 6 with Merrill Reese and Mike Quick calling all the action starting at 7.
He takes his drop. He's looking. He's grabbed. They're going to sack him and throw him down at the 23-yard line. Jalen Carter.
This is South Jersey's radio home of the Philadelphia Eagles. 97.3 ESPN. app on 97.3 ESPN and the 97.3 ESPN free mobile app.
4 o'clock hour of the Sports Bash here on 97.3 ESPN. It's always being brought to you by Ocean Casino Resort, Fanatic Sportsbook, Gallery Bar Booking Games. That's Ocean's go-to game day destination with huge screens, great drinks, and all the sportsbook action you want. It's the perfect place to catch every play and celebrate every win. And don't forget to check out their live entertainment schedule at the oceanac.com, including Sebastian Maniscalco on September 17th through 20th and 24th through 27th. As promised, it is time for Nick Earnshaw, another edition of Nick's Nuggets here on the Sports Bash on 97.3 ESPN. As I feel like there's not a shortage of things to talk about. So these are the kind of days where I feel like Nick Earnshaw is like a movie director having to make some final cuts he doesn't want to make. How you doing, Nuggets?
What's going on, Mr. Josh Hennig? I mean, there was just a platter for me, ready to go. I don't even know where to start. Where the hell do I start on a day like today? There's just so much to get into. Yes, we'll talk Eagles in a couple of minutes. Yes, of course, we'll talk 76ers. But first, we got to start with the red hot fighting Phillies. 6 in a row, Josh. All right? 6 in a row. They made the signing of Nestor Cortez official after last night's win. And right now, you look at the standings. Don't get too excited. But the Phillies are 2 up on the second spot in the wild card chase. But also, you look at the standings in the NL East. The Braves have lost 3 in a row. They have lost 6 out of their last 10. Or 4-6 in their last 10. The Phillies, don't look now, are 4.5 games out of first place in the NL East. I'm just saying. I said, what was it? It might have been around June-ish. I forget when I said it. I said they catch the Braves. I started getting a little worried here. They might have a shot to catch the Braves again. I mean, I'm just saying. I'm not saying they're going to do it right this second. But, man, if they put themselves in a really good position, and with the Braves floundering, the Phillies have entered themselves back into the conversation to win the division with the way things have been going. And you know when the Phillies play the Braves next? September 4th.
Yeah, they play them 7 times. They play them 7 times in a 10-day period, I believe.
Mm-hmm. Yes, they do. September 4th, 4-game set. And that is at home at CBP. Then they go on the road, play the Braves, and then they hit Atlanta one more time. So, Josh Hennig, with that being said, they signed Nestor Cortez. You're going down the stretch. You're kind of in the mix for the division now because they have faltered at a perfect time, and you have gotten hot at a perfect time. You'll have 7 games against them in the month of September to round things out. You sign Cortez. I know Don Mattingly is not fond of it. Can the Phillies win the division? And do they go to a 6-man rotation with Cortez adding into the mix?
All right, you got a lot there. So first of all, let's back up.
We got a platter. We got a platter today.
This is more than a platter. This is like you went second time through the drive-through at KFC or Chick-fil-A or something.
I got a bucket of nuggets.
Exactly. Couple buckets here. So first of all, I agree with you in the Braves thing. Me and Mike Gill were talking about this about an hour ago about how it's starting to look more and more like Philadelphia's best path in the postseason is to get out of the wild card and to get that division because you don't want to end up being matched up with the Cubs. So if you can escape the Cubs and the Braves are floundering, you're accelerating. Bohm, Stott, Harper. I mean, Luis Arias had a home run yesterday. I mean, what the heck was that? I mean, so you could argue the Phillies are kind of coming around at the right time. And I know people don't always agree with me on this, but Mike Gill kind of was like, with me earlier. I think Nola pitching well 8 of his last 9 starts is a huge deal for this team. Because it means that when he comes back around in the rotation, it's not I don't know what's going to happen. If Nola's going to give you no more than 3 runs allowed per outing, and go 5, 6, 7 innings every night, that's a potential win as long as the offense does their job. So I don't think your idea of them catching the Braves is unreasonable. Now, to the other point about just in general when it comes to the rotation, Mattingly said yesterday that, he basically wouldn't comment on it. Basically what he said. Like, he was like, I don't want to talk about this. But maybe if you feel like, if you're one of the people, Nick, who believes that Wheeler and Sanchez are tired, that the dog days of summer are getting to them, maybe a 6-man rotation is the answer, because I don't think, now again, I don't think, doesn't mean I know. I don't think Sanchez and Wheeler want to be in a situation where you're telling them not to pitch more than 4 innings. I think those guys want to get their maximum out of every start. So I think it's a lot easier to say to them, we're going to get you guys a little breather by putting, and even Nestor Cortez only goes 3-4 innings. And then you call up, what's his name? Alan Hangel, and he goes like the next 3 innings. You could always do something like that as well. I don't think that's crazy.
No. All right. So this is more like a chicken breast, this nugget. All right. It's a wide platter. All right. It's big.
Grilled? I like grilled chicken.
I'm a big grilled chicken guy as well. First, I want to start. You invoked Nola. Okay.
I did.
Aaron Nola in potential clinching scenarios, regular season and playoffs, in 44 1/3 innings, 1.62 ERA, 4-1 in those games. He has been a big game pitcher in the past. Okay. And he's pitching extremely well right now. That is not something I thought was very possible just a couple months ago at this point. Aaron Nola may have pitched himself back into the starting rotation in a postseason as that 4th starter. The way he's going right now, and it's usually like last night. Am I crazy? Yeah, last night. Gives up the 1 run on a solo shot, whatever. He gives up the most home runs. We know, bleeping Nola all the time. All right? But the guy's been hitting his spots. He looks like he has gotten stronger as the year has gone on. And he has pitched extremely well in big games throughout his career. He has the experience. He's pitched well in like division clinching games. He's been there, done that before. And with the way he is going right now, I think you have to consider him the 4th guy at this point. Definitely over Painter. That's for sure. Definitely over Cortez, because you don't know what the hell you're going to get from him. That's a wild card in of itself. It's a nice surprise for a team that lost Ranger Suarez in the offseason, a team heading into the postseason with 3 bona fide starters who may be tired. If Nola can give you a good start in the postseason, I don't want him coming out of the bullpen. He's making too much money not to have a role if you look at the entirety of the roster heading into the playoffs. I think he's your 4th starter as it stands right now, not even a question. And they believe in Nola. This is a franchise that's not going to give up on a guy who's pitched some of the most innings in baseball, him and Zach Wheeler, since before COVID. They've been at the top ranked of innings pitched. So I think Nola has pitched himself back as a starter, 4th guy in the rotation in the playoffs. You will see Aaron Nola start a playoff game. The second angle that I want to discuss with you before you go, I know you got a lot to say, and I know we're short on time. The 6-man rotation, I think, is a great idea, because I know Don Mattingly was kind of, I don't really want to get into it that much. I don't know if I want to. You got to get those guys healthy, and they got to be 100%. Even if, I know how much they're creatures of habit, especially Wheels. Give them the extra day. Have Cortez be that extra guy, because I know they want to pitch, but if they're not 100% in the postseason, this team has 0 shot to make any noise in the playoffs.
Yeah, and I'll just say really quick, Mike McGarry brought this up a couple hours ago when we had him on. I'll kind of like reiterate it here. The Phillies wouldn't be in this situation if they weren't so insistent that they had to go in the spring training with just Taijuan Walker and Andrew Painter for the final rotation. They could have gone to spring training with 3 veteran pitchers or 2 more veteran pitchers. You could have, beefed up the minor league system, signed a bunch of minor league deals. They could have gone and just, this idea that they have to go to the Marshall's discount rack every August to get pitching it's frankly embarrassing for an organization that spends as much money as they do on their players. So I would just remind folks, we wouldn't be in this position if Dave Dombrowski and Preston Mattingly would have done their job before they got to spring training in February.
That I don't disagree with. And we talked about the Cortez signing a little bit yesterday. We both agree, like, they shouldn't put themselves in this position. It shouldn't be a guy off the street that they're signing in late August to help them make a postseason push, to be that long guy out of the pen in the postseason, etc. I agree with you there. But this is the scenario they're in now. And now you got to work with what you have. I wish they would have gotten another guy at the deadline. Didn't happen. Cortez is the guy. He's an innings eater. He's pitched well in the past, and you're just hoping it sticks, right? You're just hoping he could come on and just give you some innings, eat some up as you head into the postseason, and maybe he can give you an inning or two during the playoffs. That's the way I would look at Nestor Cortez, because he didn't sign a minor league deal. That's a major league deal. He signed. They're kicking guys off the 40-man roster for this guy, okay? So Cortez, he will be here, and he will have some type of role. Could he be another nice surprise? It'd be awesome. I like the Phillies. They need surprises this postseason. If they want any shot, they need like a guy to come out of left field, no pun intended, to really step it up. Like an Aaron Nola, who has just pitched like he's found his prime again for some reason. That's been a nice surprise. If Cortez can be solid for you and you could trust him over the next month and ramp him up for the playoffs, that'd be a nice surprise. And it's like, all right, I feel better about my pitching staff at this point. I do. And I feel good heading into the postseason. And also, I have to get that division because now it's in reach. And you got 7 games against the Brave. Like you talked about, September 4th starts 4-game set in Philadelphia when they come back after that long West Coast trip. So there's a lot of variables here. But hey, I think I don't know how long this is going to be lit. I don't think it's going to be that long. But they've given themselves a shot. Where it stands at this point, if you're the Phillies, you're sitting a little pretty. But as Mike McGarry has said in the past, they're consistently inconsistent.
All right, what do you got for nugget number 2?
Nugget number 2, I mean, did the Eagles practice or something today? Something going on?
Oh, they did.
Was there something going on? Did 2 guys chat and hug? And did that happen? Did that happen? Two guys named one guy named Jalen, another guy named AJ. Is that what I'm?
Are you talking about Jalen Carter and AJ Minter?
No. No. I'm talking about Jalen Hurts and AJ Brown. They embraced at practice today,
and they smiled at each other.
They are so good. They are professionals. They might as well be go to Hollywood and get an acting job as well. They make it a part-time gig. All right, go be on a part-time series or something. Be a recurring character like Stephen A. on General Hospital. Those 2 guys should do it because that was a great acting job. All right, I got to give them credit. That was great. There's no way those 2 like each other. After AJ starts walking back to the facility, you see Jalen just kind of lock back in, and he's got like the angry face. If you've seen some of the videos, great acting job by both of them. It is what it is. There's the Jalen discussion. It just continues to get outrageous. So I think the best 2 people to talk about it, and I know you played some of the audio earlier, is Jason Kelce and Nick Foles. I mean, those are 2 guys. One, Jason Kelce was his center, and Nick Foles played quarterback in Philadelphia just prior to Jalen Hurts, not too long before him. Okay, and won a Super Bowl. They're one of 2 quarterbacks to win for the Philadelphia Eagles, and we all know where I stand on Nick Foles, okay? We all know where I stand. Mekhi Levin shouldn't have that number. I love Mekhi Levin. I think he's going to be great. I hope he is. But he shouldn't have that number. He's already hurt. Anyway, I wanted you to play this clip from Jason Kelce. I know Nick Foles and him were on the pod together, but Jason talks about his demeanor and what makes Hurts Jalen Hurts. Take a listen to this.
I love his demeanor. I think it's a no-nonsense demeanor. It's very, like we talked about, me, Evan, I'm very emotional. This dude is like, boom.
Unstoppable.
Right? Yes. And listen, I'll admit at times when things aren't going well, you want that guy to then also be a different guy.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden be like, let's go, guys. Like you need that at times. But that's always when things aren't going well. When things are going well, his temperament to me is perfect because it doesn't ever get too high. There's never going to be a moment where he's like, I got this all figured out. Like, we're good. We're coasting now. He is the same guy, so consistent. And I think that's what having a quarterback. I think it's one of the reasons he's really good in critical games and in critical moments. He doesn't allow that stuff to phase him.
There you go. Jason Kelce on Jalen Hurts and his demeanor. Listen, the guy is even keel. He's cool, calm, collected. That's why he's so good in big moments and big games. And, I expect him to be a professional. When AJ came over to him, the acting job was fantastic. So I give him a lot of credit, Josh.
But see, I'm in perspective on one thing. I don't think Jalen's acting. I think Jalen is such a cool cat that he's just unfazed. I think AJ is acting.
That's a better word. I think that's unfazed is a great word. I think that's a better word probably to describe.
I think this is the story of what happened. This is my opinion. I don't have this on a fact, but based on everything I've read and seen, I think AJ realized after yesterday's media availability, if I don't go over and talk to him, this is going to keep being a thing.
Yep.
And I think the reason why you see the video we're playing on YouTube next right now, I think the reason why Jalen is smiling because Jalen knows how dumb this whole thing is.
Yep.
And I think Jalen is like, hey, bro, it's good to see you. You didn't have to come over here. I love you. Okay. But, and you see AJ patting him on the shoulder. AJ's probably saying something instead of, I don't hate you. I love you. And Jalen's like, I know. Like, Jalen is just so unfazed by any of this. It's like how, I don't know if you saw the other video. Drake May ran out of his way to talk to Jalen Hurts after practice today. And Jalen spent like a good 3-5 minutes with him. And when they asked Drake May afterwards, he said, I just admire the guy so much. I had to get a chance to talk to him. And Jalen was just unfazed by that too. Like, it was just two guys having a conversation. And I think the problem with all this stuff people don't understand is that Jalen Kelce's right. He's not emotional. No. He's not this aggressively passionate, roller coaster ride emotionally. He's just this unfazed, even keeled dude. Like, and you know what? God bless his heart. He got married because you know what? I would hate to see him get to my age and still be unmarried because when you get to my age, people nitpick the dumbest things about when it comes to dating. And I could totally see a scenario where Jalen goes on a date and he goes, I'm really enjoying myself. And the girl's like, you don't sound like you're enjoying yourself. Like, I'm so glad he found somebody who understands that he's just not the most excitable dude in the world.
Yeah, he's not going to be like Tom Brady yelling at people on the sideline and coming at, you know what I mean? Like, it's just, he's not going to do that. And that's fine. That's fine. Everyone wants him to be rah-rah. And then when someone's rah-rah, like Nick Sirianni, you get upset. Like, you can't win. So just be you. He's a Super Bowl champion. He's a great quarterback. And it's just a shame the way people treat him online and in the discourse surrounding quarterbacks because he's a solid quarterback. I think he's top 10. That's just my opinion. I've always thought that. I've always been a Jalen guy. But, it's just a shame that he just doesn't get credit. It's either so far one extreme or so far to the other extreme. He sucks or he's the greatest thing of all time. It's like a very, very good quarterback. He's probably top 10. He didn't have the greatest year of all time last year. That's fine. It's fine. Let's hope he bounces back because the guy seems to do that every single time he's doubted.
You got one more nugget for us?
Can I squeeze anything? Do I have time to squeeze anything else in?
You got a minute and change.
All right. I wanted to also get in to the 76ers real quick. I didn't get to send this audio in, but I had to get the Sixers in. Tyrese Maxey talked about the practice yesterday. There was a video going around. He talked about it. He said,
the workout, it's not a practice. It's a workout.
Yeah, workout. Great communication, great vibes, and great energy is what he said about the workout with LeBron and Jaylen Brown. So there you go. Oh, we're off to a good start. Great vibes, Josh. Great vibes. We'll end with some good ones.
Why is that news?
It's got to be news.
It's not news.
He
It's
gave
news
you
if
a
there
minute.
wasn't good vibes. It would be news if they had a workout and Maxie was like, man, working out with LeBron sucks.
You gave me 1 minute. I had nothing else to get to. That could it would have been a platter of nuggets. It would have in-depth nuggets like the other two.
You could have given me anything else.
Nope. Not if it would have been an in-depth nugget, that's for sure.
All right. Nick, we won't see you tomorrow. So a happy hour Friday. Enjoy your weekend. I'll talk to you later.
Talk to you later. Peace.
Nick Earnshaw for Nick's Nuggets here on the Sports Bash on 97.3 ESPN. I guarantee you a professional like Nick Earnshaw could have given me anything else, and we would have gotten enough time. Maybe I would have pushed the commercial break back. Maybe I could have said, this is such a good topic. I'm going to push the commercial break back a minute or two. But instead, he gave me that. He's going to give me something good. Oscar Budejen for Phillies Fastball. Coming up next.
0 point. Would I ever consider not being a fan of the team?
97.3 ESPN, WENJ, WENJ HD, Millville, Atlantic City, a Town Square media station serving all of South Jersey. This is the Sports Bash with Mike Gill on 97.3 ESPN and the 97.3 ESPN free mobile app. Now live from inside the Ocean Casino Resort. Here's Mike Gill.
Josh Hennig for Mike Gill, 5 o'clock hour here on 97.3 ESPN. I hope everyone's safe out there because my phone just went nuts with one of those tornado warnings. It was like screaming at me. So if you are out and about right now, listening on your radio or wherever you're at, just be safe out there in South Jersey. Okay, folks? Tornado watch or warning or whatever that was. Weather's crazy. Be safe. Get off your phone. Time for Phillies Fastball. Brought to you by Ventnor Social. It's the place to go to catch every Phillies game on their 20 big screen TVs while enjoying great food and drink. Visit our Facebook page for up-to-date specials, and the Sports Bash will be back there on the 26th for the next Sports Bash. Mike Gill on remote location. I'm a little excited. Why? Because the Phillies have won back-to-back series sweeps of the Twins and Marlins. They got the job done, so we're excited to have Oscar Budejen back for today's Phillies Fastball, where everything's looking up right now for the Phils. Oscar, how you doing today?
I'm doing great. I mean, not better than the Phillies have been looking over the last 6 games. I mean, amazing. I mean, talking about tornado, of course, everybody watch out and be careful. But there's a new tornado coming to Citizens Bank Park, and it's called Aaron Nola. Aaron Nola has, the resurgence of Aaron Nola is something that is very impressive to see. Yesterday, 8 strikeouts, no base on balls. I was looking at his pitch selection. He's becoming more of a finesse pitcher. Yesterday, when you look at the numbers, he threw 34% of his pitches were his knuckle curve, 20% changeup. So 50% of his pitches were either changeups or knuckle curve. A lot more finesse we're seeing. He had an impressive 63% whiff on his knuckle curve. So, that's a very impressive number, 63% on whiffs there, as well as 36% of his changeup. I mean, look, this is a new guy, and look, this is the type of Nola that we could potentially use in the postseason. So, great news, Josh. In my opinion, look at his last 5 outings: 1 run. 1 run, 3 runs, 2 runs, 1 run. 8 strikeouts, 9 strikeouts, 8 strikeouts, 5-4. I mean, the guy, this is really impressive. 251 ERA in the last five starts.
Yeah, a couple of things there, Oscar. You mentioned it's also, if you go back 9 starts, it's 8 of his last 9 starts, he's given you quality outings. And, it's like, Now, it's not his fault they lost some of those games. He's only given up 1-2 runs, and the team can't score runs. That ain't his fault. But still, if Nola's going out there and giving you an opportunity to win every night, I feel a heck of a lot better heading down the stretch of the season, especially with the Braves stumbling and fumbling their way through the month. You have a chance in a few weeks, if Nola keeps this up, that you could go into the Braves and wipe them out of the conversation. Maybe you become the NL East, but it's only going to happen if a guy like Aaron Nola keeps going out and doing what he's doing, Oscar.
Yeah, look, to me, start thinking of the division. That will come in due time if we have an opportunity or not. We're 5 games out right now. I think the Braves were winning until the last that I saw. Let me double check here. What's the story here on the Braves? But look, the Braves. Let me see. Did they win? They did win 2-0 against the White Sox today. So we're 5 games out. It's 5 games out. 58 losses versus 53 losses the Braves have. It could be a tight race. We still have 7 games to go with them, but I'm less worried about that, to be honest with you. I want the Phillies, the Phillies that we've seen over the last 6 games to continue playing the same way. and getting productions from everybody. Yesterday was Nola and Arise with that huge home run that gave us the victory. We need more of this. We need this lineup to open up and everyone contributes versus just being a couple of guys. Schwarber and Harper are not carrying this team right now. It's kind of the other guys that have been carrying it, particularly throughout the 6 victories, outside, of course, of the Field of Dreams game, which was Kyle Schwarber at his best.
And before we move on from Nola, I did want to circle back to something else you brought up about the swing and miss with the knuckle curve. I was saying earlier, Oscar, that for Nola to be effective, it's when he is averaging that strikeout per inning or better, right? It's when he is got the hitters kind of off kilter where they don't think they can just, sit back and, wail off on him. It's when he gets those strikeouts per inning, like he has right now. I think it's like a 1.3 strikeouts per inning, whatever the number is. But like when he's getting those guys off kilter, that's when he's most effective because now the hitter can't walk into the batter's box and know what's coming.
Yeah, I think, look, when you look at Nola and you look at Painter, the 2 most important things for them is location. I mean, Nola particularly, you cannot leave balls in the middle of the plate because he's throwing at 91, 92 miles an hour. He's not the same pitcher he used to be. But location is absolutely a must, and particularly with Andrew Painter with a fastball. I mean, the other day he left those pitches in the middle of the plate, and they hit a massive home run against him that put us down 4-0. So it's very important. Location is very important. Look where JT is calling the pitches and see if he's hitting the spots. And that is going to be, to me, one of the most important things that we need to see the rest of the way. But look, this is great news for the Phillies because just as we're talking about extending the lineup, having Aaron Nola as your 4th starter, a very dependable 4th starter with Wheeler, Christopher Sanchez, Luzardo, and Nola. I'm telling you, this team is going to be very hard to beat in a postseason if we're able to pitch this way.
And that's been the formula for the Phillies in the past, right, Oscar? It's when you have good pitching, it's less pressure on the offense. The offense doesn't have to carry the whole load of the team. But there was a moment in the game last night, speaking of pitching, that I think was huge, Oscar. 8th inning, Boland's in the game. When Brandon Marsh got that catch, it could have been a foul ball. It could just let it go, right? But no, he went and got it, right? And I thought that was a huge moment because then the camera panned over to Boland, right? And you saw the relief on his face. They need Boland. They need Boland to keep being that guy in the bullpen, right? And if that was a moment that maybe helped his confidence even a little bit more, I think that's massive for a team that has a lot of questions with the bullpen. We know the starters are, right? You have to got the big 4, right? You got Wheeler, you got Luzardo, you got Nola, you got Sanchez. Okay, we got them. But now if you know the starter can hand the ball off, somebody's not going to break under the pressure. If Boland can be that guy, last night might have been the moment that he got that little extra boost of confidence knowing that he can close out a game like that.
Look, that continues to be my biggest concern on the Phillies right now is the bullpen. I mean, it's been for a while. Look, Boland, Riley getting Alvarado back on track. I mean, Kerkering back on track. I mean, those are critical components of this equation here. I like the Cortez acquisition. I think Cortez will help at some point. This bullpen is a very, very flexible pitcher. I would call that he could play many different roles. Let's see what version of Cortez we're going to get. Are we going to get the version of Cortez that have played the last 2 years and has almost a 5 ERA, or we're going to get the version of Cortez of 2024, 23, 24, which was a much more effective pitcher in the Yankees system. So, look, to me, the bullpen is the big question mark. Boland has been very reliable for us over the last couple of months. I'm concerned that he hasn't been pitching. He has not pitched in his career in the big game. He was the 5th or the 8th pitcher in the bullpen in Kansas City when they chipped them to us for a Strom. He's been pitching much better than that. Look, I hope that this is, tremendous catch by Brandon March. By the way, it was not the only one, right? He had a couple of great plays, a sliding catch also earlier in the game. I mean, Brandon March is a heck of a corner outfielder. And, I mean, unfortunately, his bat has not been as awake as we ideally want. Hopefully, he can wake up soon. But his defense is elite in the outfield. So, look, the team is playing much better, Judge, and you got to take it. I mean, you have to enjoy it. I think the other thing that this does is solidifies our position in the standings. I mean, it gives you a little bit more of a breathing room. I mean, we were like a game out of the Diamondbacks, which I thought they were going to play worse after they lose Ketel Marte. He's been winning. They have won the last couple of games, so they have looked a little slightly better but still now there are 1 and 2 games back behind us. So that's we needed this stretch to get going. So hopefully this day of rest do not relaxes this team, and we go back to our old ways tomorrow. So hopefully we can keep it going.
We're talking with Oscar Budejen for today's Phillies Fastball, of course, brought to you as always by Ventnor Social on Ventnor Avenue in Ventnor. Oscar, you mentioned about the standings, and I think that is the other side of the coin, how important it was to sweep the Marlins. You are now burying a team that had a chance to snap at your heels, right? And that's what makes this weekend so important, because now you can get revenge on the Cardinals for what happened last week, right? So if the Phillies can now, they took care of it with the Marlins, check, right? Check box. Now if you can go get 2 out of 3 against the Cardinals, now that West Coast trip becomes a little less stressful, right?
I mean, it's going to be stressful. It's going to be less stressful. I mean, we're right now in the part of the year that we most win, and the team is winning. So those 3 games against Minnesota and these 3 games against the Marlins are absolutely critical. The Marlins are now they have 64 wins. So they're 6 games away of the Phillies. So you basically took a difference of 3 games, now become 6. The question with the Cardinals have been playing really good baseball. And they're 7-3 in the last 10 games. They're a much better team than anyone thought, and they have remained in the race. They're right now. They were, I think, a couple games when we faced them. There were a couple games below 500. Right now, they're 66 and 63. So they're 3 games above 500, and they're going to look at this series the same way we're going to look at it, right? This is do or die for us. I mean, if we're able to beat the Phillies and we're able to sweep them or win 2 out of 3, we're back in the race. So they're looking exactly how we're doing. So our pitching is going to be absolutely critical, and our hitting needs to continue doing their part to be able to win. We've won this 6-game stretch is less. We've put less stress on the bullpen, and our hitting has been delivering, as well as our starting pitching has been the key, particularly Painter. I mean, particularly Nola and Painter. They have pitched much better, and they have helped this team tremendously to win a few of those games.
And I think the other part of it is you mentioned about the hitting. I think that, as you pointed out, it hasn't been Schwarber, right? It hasn't been those guys. It's the other guys who are stepping up. And, we don't expect Arias to hit a home run every night, but what he's done this week has been very, very good. Bryce Harper continued his on-base streak now to 23 games. And outside of yesterday, Bohm and Stott have had really great months. So if those guys can continue to do what they're doing, right? Now you're not sitting there in the 8th and 9th inning hoping and praying that Schwarber saves you because nobody else did anything. No, now it's, hey, Schwarber, find yourself, get hot again, and we can let the other guys hit for now.
Yeah, I mean, look, when you look at the month, Mundito Sosa have played 5 games, 5 of the 18 games. He has a 357 average with a 1,042 OPS. Harper has been doing really well, 310, 1,035 OPS. Bryson Stott, 333. Alec Bohm, 354. Justin Crawford, which we should, I mean, those 3 guys, those are the 3 guys, Crawford, Stott, Bohm, and Stott, that have been carrying this team over the last month. I mean, you start looking, Stott has 12 runs and 10 RBIs. Alec Bohm has 10 RBIs and 12 RBIs and 10 runs. Justin Crawford, 8 runs and 8 RBIs. I mean, those guys, you look at it, I mean, even Arias and Schwarber are hitting, in terms of average, Schwarber is at 209, while Arias is back up to 288, but Trey Turner at 246. I mean, look, this guy, it has been those guys that are non-year heroes the Stotts, the Bowman, the Crawfords, together with Sosa, whenever he has the opportunity to play, that have been carrying this team, which is great. I mean, it just extended the entire team, and it puts you in a much better position, and it does not put so much pressure on Harper and Alec Bohm. By the way, Luis Arraez has 9 runs and 11 RBIs in the month of August. So, look, this team is hot, and it's great to see. I mean, right now, the Phillies, just looking at the month, I just wanted to look at here at the month for a second on our pitching. We have this thing is doing his thing for me. Hold on one second. So I have a few windows open, so that's what happened here. So the Phillies are 13-5, number 1 team in all of baseball with most wins in the month of August. The Cubs have 12 wins. The Padres have 12, and the Cardinals. Talking about the Cardinals, they have also 12 wins. So you could see. I mean, this race is far from over. I mean, the Cardinals are playing great baseball. The Phillies are playing great baseball, and look, the Phillies are number 2 in runs scored in the month of August, and they're number 4 in ERA in the month of August. So it's great news to see this Phillies back playing in full cylinder, and we're right now the hottest team in baseball, which is awesome to see.
And realistically, Oscar, if the team that we're seeing recently is the team that enters the postseason, that's a winning ball club, right? That's, if you would have asked us, before that, like, when they were struggling in the middle of July coming out of the All-Star break, we were all like, I don't know about the Phillies. And Oscar, I made this comment, and we'll hit on this before I let you go. I made the comment that it's up to the Phillies, not just to win so they have a chance to win in the postseason, because you want to be on a good note heading into the postseason, but it's also about keeping the fans invested, right? Because guess what's around the corner? It's football season. And you know what? If the Phillies were floundering, you know what Philly people are not doing in Philadelphia? They're not ignoring other sports to watch the Phillies. They're finding other things to watch. But now, if this Phillies team keeps running, Red October is going to be not just hot at the plate and on the mound, but also hot in the building.
Yeah, I mean, look, if there is one thing that we need to understand, and it's an absolute must, is, look, when this team hits, and I was looking at the stats here that show on a month by month basis. Look, in the month of April, we scored 3.88 runs. 3.88. In the month of May, 4 runs. We were 26th and 22nd in baseball. In June, we started to hit 566, number 2 in baseball. In July, 392. So we go from being 5.66 runs in the month of June. We go down to 392, 25th in baseball. So you go from 7 to 25th, and now we're second again in baseball in run scoring more than 5.4 runs. It's absolutely a must that we finish this race. The last 34 games, we finish hot so we can start the postseason. And look, the postseason is not going to be. We don't have a Miami. Remember when we beat the Miami Marlins a couple of years ago? That we beat them easily in a couple of games. And hey, it's going to be the Chicago Cubs. It's going to be the Los Angeles Dodgers. Or it's going to be the Atlanta Braves. I mean, who we're going to be facing. So it's very important. I think it's going to be very hard to catch up the Cubs. So it's going to be the Braves. It's going to be the Dodgers. Or it's going to be the Cubs, whomever we're going to be facing in the postseason. So it's not going to be an easy cake. We're going to have to look up versus looking back. And look, this is the other thing. We might not start in Philly, which is a big deal. I mean, those 3 games might not be played in Philly.
Yep.
So unless we win the division, that is the key. They're winning the division so we can start at home versus having to play those 3 games away from home. So very, very important pieces. If you don't mind, let me remind everyone that Foley is the Philly store. The Philly Sports Shop is on 22nd and Market, and you can go to FoleyOnSouth.com and find all the great merchandising from all the big moments in Philly's history, all those championships in the 1980s and 2008. I mean, every merchandise that you want to find, a lot of things from Mike Schmidt, Chase Utley, that hopefully is going to go in the Hall of Fame next year. All of that, you can find it on Foley, the Philly Sport, 22nd and South in South Philly.
Absolutely. Great stuff again for Phillies Fastball with Oscar Budejen. Oscar, we will talk to you again tomorrow.
Thank you, Judge. See you tomorrow. Go Phils.
Josh Hennig filling in for Mike Gill here on the Sports Bash on 97.3 ESPN. And don't forget, Phillies Fastball, as it is each and every day, brought to you by Ventnor Social. It's the place to go to catch every Phillies game on their 20 big screen TVs while enjoying great food and drink. Visit our Facebook page to learn more about up-to-date info and specials. And don't forget the Sports Bash with Mike Gill. We'll be back there on the 26th of this month. So you got another opportunity to hang out with Mike Gill and the Sports Bash at Ventnor Social, your place to go for Phillies games and sponsors of Phillies Fastball each day right here on 97.3 ESPN. Josh Hennig hanging out with you, filling in for Mike Gill on the Sports Bash on 97.3 ESPN. Coming up, we'll get back to the Whitehorse RV text board. 609-403-0973. I see Rain EHT is mad at me. I see that Rico's got a lot to say about the Eagles, so we got a lot to get to on the other side. That's the Whitehorse RV text board at 609-403-0973. Whitehorse RV Centers in Williamstown and Galloway. Your adventure starts here at Whitehorse RV.
We have the Phillies covered.
Swing and a drive, right field, way back, forget it, out of here. Kyle Schwarber hammers one over the right field wall.
Get the best Phillies baseball coverage on the Sports Bash with Mike Gill on 97.3 ESPN. We have the perfect solution for sitting in traffic.
Come with me.
The Sports Bash with Mike Gill on 97.3 ESPN and the 97.3 ESPN free mobile app.
Transportation across southern New Jersey. For details, call 856-229-7571 or visit driveless.com.
.528 on the Sports Bash. Josh Hennig filling in for Mike Gill on 97.3 ESPN. Before we get back to the text board at 609-403-0973, give a reminder everyone that there is no Phillies lineup today. If there was a Phillies lineup, it would have been brought to you by Chachi's 13th floor at Rafici's. It's now open. Fantasy football season is here, so book your fantasy football league draft at Chachi's 13th floor above Villa Raffici in Absecon. For just $20 per person, your draft package includes great food, cold beer. Chachi's 13th floor, proud partner of 97.3 ESPN, and you've been texting throughout the week. You name where you're from. You got the Phillies lineup. You are in the running for the $25 gift card tomorrow. We will announce it tomorrow on the show. $25 gift card for Raffici, and don't forget the fantasy football headquarters is Chachi's 13th floor at Raffici's. It is now open. We'll do this text to get to at 609-403-0973. Also, comments coming in on the YouTube stream at 973 ESPN on YouTube and X. And of course, all of your commentary, your feedback throughout the show is brought to you by White Horse RV Center in Williamstown and Galloway. Your RV adventure starts here at White Horse RV. So I said Ray in EHT is not happy with me. So I want to get to that because I always enjoy when people either misunderstand me or, take something I'm saying and maybe, well, I'll let Ray speak for himself. He says, I like hearing about the Sixers. I'm going to go with Knicks Nuggets on this. That's one beautiful nugget by him talking about Tyrese Maxey. I know like controversy and all that, but hearing the Sixers are vibing and LeBron's fitting right in, they're already doing workouts together. It's amazing to me. I can't wait for the season to start. I already got a Jaylen Brown jersey and a LeBron jersey, says Ray in EHT. Well, first of all, Ray, either you misunderstood what I was saying or you just don't like the truth. The truth is, why is it news if people who we already know like each other are happy with each other? Like, seriously, we know LeBron and Maxey have a great relationship. We have heard Jaylen Brown say at his press conference, on his Twitch stream, on other platforms that he likes Maxey and he's excited to play with LeBron. So why do I need pictures of them together or Maxey saying they had a great workout together as evidence to me of anything except for confirmation bias? That's what it really is. I already know. I don't need that to get excited about the Sixers season. That's not news. Now, listen, for some people, their job is as content creators to have things to post online. So it's great for those people. But for the rest of us who have other things to talk about, like the Eagles, the Phillies, and the Flyers, I don't need to spend day and night getting excited about LeBron and Jaylen Brown coming to Philadelphia. I'm sorry. Maybe I'm the bad guy in this situation. Why do I need to know that Tyrese Maxey had a good time? The news would be if they didn't have a good time. Not that they had a good time. And frankly, Maxey makes everything better. The dude is just a positive force of nature. If LeBron and Jaylen Brown don't like Maxey, that would be news. Then you know there's something wrong with them. I don't need controversy, Randy HT. I just don't need to be told what I already know. I think that's the problem we run into sometimes. And that is people don't like to hear a story from one person. It's like, you ever know stories of like being a parent and the parents, like they tell the kid something again and again. But then the kid hears from a teacher and a coach. And then they tell the parent like some profound thing. And the parent's like, I've been telling you that for 2 years. Why do you have to hear from them? I feel the same way about this Maxey thing. Why do I need Tyrese Maxey to tell me they had a great workout? The news would be if they didn't have a good workout. Come on. More text coming in. Rico on the Whitehorse RV text board at 609-403-0973 says, Josh, I think A.J. Brown's gotten a pass for failing to catch passes in his last few games with the Eagles. Those plays would have been crucial. To me, it's the steel eyes in Jalen Hurts. When you see that in the huddle, that's why the Eagles win to me. My question for you is, could the Eagles trade Trotter Jr. for a position they need this year? I believe Campbell will be healthy this season. Well, so Rico, a couple things. One, no one's doubting that Campbell's going to be healthy. That's not really the issue with Jihad Campbell. The issue with Jihad Campbell is he's behind the 8 ball. Fangio explained it the other day. When Nakobe Dean came back last year, he took the starting spot. It was his job to have. He wasn't going to lose it. And as the play caller of the defense, the team was better with him and Bond on the field than with Bond and Campbell on the field. So Campbell lost valuable playing time. So now he's coming into this year behind the 8 ball. Not as many reps, not as much experience. And in the Fangio defense, linebackers are a very important position. So I think it's more about Campbell needs reps. It's not about health with him. I think we've already crossed that bridge when it comes to the health thing. Now, trading Trotter, I would hate if they did that. To me, you want to keep as many good players as possible until you're forced to move on from them. Like, I don't think the Eagles wanted to lose Milton Williams in free agency, but they weren't going to give their number 3 defensive tackle $98 million, but they kept him on the roster for as long as they could before they couldn't afford him anymore. To me, you keep Trotter Jr. for as long as you can until you absolutely can't anymore. So, I personally wouldn't trade Trotter Jr., but that's just me. To me, that's not a guy that you move on from. If I'm trading anyone, it's a player at a position that is duplicitous with somebody else. Like, if you told me there was a team with a bunch of wide receiver injuries and someone called asking about what the availability is of Darius Cooper, not saying I'd do it, but I at least listen. I have to consider it, especially if you're offering me something that I need. I think that's, in my mind, a more likely piece. Because, again, you don't have as many quality linebackers as you do quality wide receivers. I think that's where the difference is, Rico. But good text there on the Whitehorse RV text board at 609-403-0973. We got a message coming in on the YouTube stream. Says we need Painter to stabilize the rest of the pitching staff. I think he will. I'm not too worried about Painter right now, just because overall he has pitched well since his return from his minor league assignment. I look at Painter as a guy that is probably going to come out of your bullpen in the postseason, kind of like Sasaki did for the Dodgers last year. I think that'd be a great move for the Phillies. The Phillies' biggest problem over the years has been roles, right? It's been guys being asked to do jobs or maybe not. How do I say this? It doesn't fit in with, not fit in. Maybe they don't fit in, I'll say. it's a role that they don't fit. So now you're asking somebody to do something they're not good at. I think Painter could be a good pitcher coming out of the bullpen for an inning or two. I really do. And I think that if you can get through the season, he has a good finish to the year. Nothing crazy, but good enough to stabilize the rotation. I think you could be excited about where this team is going from here. And again, I'm not overtly worried about Painter because if Nola's going to keep doing what he's doing, it puts even less and less pressure on Painter to actually step up and do anything. That's at least how I look at it. Uh, 609-403-0973. James from Delaware has a question. And I gotta be honest, I gotta double check this because I don't know if he just sent a message that was voice to text. It's not cooperating. I'm trying to double check something here on the Eagles roster because he's asking me a pretty deep cut on the Eagles roster. Okay, so he is all right. Where do you think Brandon George is on the linebacker depth chart since James in Delaware? Where's he on the depth chart? He's nowhere near the top. We heard from Adam Caplan earlier that the top three linebackers right now are Zach Bond, Campbell, and Trotter Jr. After that, it really depends on how you view the team, right? I think that George has a chance to make the team or be on the practice squad. I don't think he's much more than that because of two reasons. One, Smile Mondin is a guy who can play linebacker and special teams. So guys like him and Chance Campbell, they might be carving out themselves a role in special teams, so it makes them maybe a little more valuable. Can George play special teams? Sure, in the most literal sense, but yeah, I don't know. I'm not going to act like a guy who was just signed, 6 days ago, is a lock for this team. I think he's a depth piece. I think that's what he is. So I understand that sometimes you see a new guy and you get excited. I'm not exactly getting excited. He was signed because you needed more bodies. Preseasons can be rough. And when you don't want to start your starters in these preseason games, someone's got to play. And I think that's part of the reason why Brandon George is here. Whether he makes the roster or not, I wouldn't say I'm that high on it. Because if he does make the roster, it'll be as like a special teams guy or someone who does a lot of different things in terms of like versatility. I just don't see a scenario where he's going to come in here and light it up. Because he hasn't so far. He's been a good player. He's been maybe a surprising for some people player. But come on. It is preseason. All right, we'll get to more of your thoughts and comments on the other side. Text board is open at 609-403-0973. The White Horse RV text board with locations in Williamstown and Galloway. Your adventure starts here at White Horse RV. Plus, we have Do You Remember coming up? What happened today, August 20th, in sports history? We'll get to all that more coming up on the other side. Josh Hennig, filling for Mike Gill, 973 ESPN FM, the 973 ESPN mobile app powered by First Bank of Seattle City. And we are streaming live on YouTube and X. Just follow at 973 ESPN.
The Birds are back. Catch Philadelphia Eagles preseason football as the Eagles get ready for the 2026 season. Heading to Foxborough to face the AFC champion Patriots. Saturday night game coverage starts at 6 with Merrill Reese and Mike Quick calling all the action starting at 7.
He takes his drop. He's looking. He's grabbed. They're going to sack him and throw him down at the 23-yard line. Jalen Carter.
This is South Jersey's radio home of the Philadelphia Eagles. 97.3 ESPN.
brought to you by Cross County Connection, providing fare-free transportation across southern New Jersey. For details, call 856-229-75.
Driving you home here on the Sports Bash, final segment of the show today on 97.3 ESPN. Another edition of Do You Remember? Okay, August 20th, on this day in 2000, Tiger Woods wins the PGA Championship at Valhalla in a classic duel with the previously unknown Bob May. Woods, the 54-hole leader, shoots a 67 on Sunday, but is matched with a minus 18 after 6-6 from May, wins in a 3-goal aggregate playoff, becomes the first golfer since Ben Hogan to win 3 majors in a calendar year. Of course, we know Tiger Woods went on to win a bunch more majors. I was just reading a book about Arnold Palmer and Jack Nicklaus. And I'm reading the book, and all I kept thinking about is so many of those golfers, none of them were as dominant as Tiger. Now, Arnold Palmer and Jack Nicklaus were as popular as Tiger, and I think that's where the difference is. Tiger Woods never got Jack Nicklaus's record when it came to majors. He's never going to get it. But I think Tiger, for that run, right, that late 90s to mid 2000s, is still arguably one of the most dominant athletes of all time. When you go back to what Arnold Palmer and Jack Nicklaus, Jack Nicklaus was more 60s and 70s. Arnold Palmer was 50s and 60s into early 70s. His big run. Gary Player was 60s and 70s. Ben Hogan was basically 50s. You're talking about a lot of guys who they had very short spurts of success, or they had long runs of success, marginal. So Tiger Woods, I think, still deserves to be on that Mount Rushmore of golfers. On this day in 2008, Usain Bolt wraps up the 100 and 200 meter golds, winning the 200 meter final at Beijing with a world record of 19.3 seconds. As time goes on, I feel like we may never see anyone as dominant as Usain Bolt, just because of the fact so many guys, they don't do track and field much anymore, exclusively. There's a lot of people who used to be, that was their thing. Track and field was their thing. And now, if you're a fast, explosive athlete, you're playing football, you're playing basketball. 2016, the U.S. women's basketball team wins their 6th straight Olympic gold by defeating Spain 101-72. Diana Taurasi, Sue Bird, and Tamika Catchings joined Lisa Leslie and Teresa Edwards as only players to win 4 straight gold medals in basketball at the time. Diana Taurasi actually just had her number retired by the Phoenix Suns the other day. And, it's really a shame that, in a world where the WNBA is probably playing some of the best basketball it ever has in the history of their sport, they can't avoid controversy. It's just such a fiasco. It's such a shame. And in many ways, they're doing it to themselves. They don't have any real leadership. And you know what? Absence of leadership, what happens? The inmates run the asylum. And I'm not saying the ways of the NBA are inmates, but I'm just saying that, it's a rudderless ship. And when there's no captain, when there's no leader, lemmings can walk off a cliff. One more to get to for, let's see here. On this day, the Pirates beat the Cardinals 6-3 in the first Little League World Series Classic game of baseball at Williamsport. By the way, all the Little League games were postponed due to weather. So, it's kind of ironic that that's the thing that happened today in this day in history, and that all the Little League World Series games are postponed. But yes, today in 2017 was the first ever Major League Little League Classic game. The Pirates beat the Cardinals 6-3. because we all remember that riveting game. Oh my goodness. Yeah. Listen, anyone who knows me knows I'm not one of these people who gets like crazy excited about the Little League World Series every year. I just feel like I have other sports to watch. I have other things going on. It's also a great time of year for me to catch up on my cum list on my streaming platforms. Like tonight, no Phillies tonight. So I'm going to go see if I can knock something else off of my watch list tonight when I get home. Thanks, everybody, for tuning into the show here on the Sports Bash 97.3 ESB. It is draining out there. It is crazy weather. So, everyone, please be safe. Take care of yourselves as you're out and about traveling this evening. Thanks to Oscar Budejen for today's Phillies Fastball, Nick Earnshaw for Nick's Nuggets, Adam Caplan for Football at 4, Mike Gill checked in from Williamstown, New York. Mike McGarry called in as well earlier today. If you missed my conversation with Mike Gill, it's coming up next on the Best of the Sports Bash right here on 97.3 ESPN.